What's up, everyone? Welcome once again to our latest edition of the Quake Saturdays, right? This is the Quake Pro League, and we have 4 matches lined up for you, kicking things off with Sparty versus Wenger, which personally is the match I think I'm looking forward to the most, because I always just want to know what we're getting today. But enough of that, don't want to get ahead of myself. My name's Ketchup, joined by the one and only Lethal. How's it going, Harry? Let me wish you a late happy birthday, by the way. You are now, I think, the average age of your standard Quake player.
I think that's probably the nicest way of putting it at this stage. But thank you very much, Ryan. Really appreciate it. We've got some great matches, great storylines as well, which we're going to discuss also. And I think, you know, one step closer to the Quake World Championships. So all eyes on the higher seeds here.
It will be. We're looking at a couple of key players today, I think, to see who's going to get that, I want to say final push, because for some of these players, this will be the most important week as we close out. This isn't the final week, keep in mind. There's a few more left to go, including our final challenges too, so that's going to be really, really cool. But let's have a bit of a recap over the last week's results, because there were quite a few to talk about. And really, in that element, Dramis is the one that we're thinking about, I think. We're seeing Dramis again today, and anyone that's been following Dramis on social media knows that this week means a great deal to him. Being able to get a nice little push in these closing weeks is going to be fantastic. But being able to get that win over Sparty, and that is, I think, the continuing storyline of Sparty as a player is, will he be able to pull up today? Is a couple of things going to go wrong and then spell disaster for the rest of the series? I do hope very much so that we don't see that this week, as you know, you're going up against Wenger for our first match of the day. That's quite an opponent to have to face off against, Harry.
Yeah, I kind of feel like Dramis is equally as interesting. The fact that the man himself took down, you know, the 3 staples in terms of players, in Rafa, Wenger and Razy early on in the season, and he's had his ups and downs with some of his opponents, so I have to see how he does during the later stages, especially today. And as you can see, Xenocube doing what he does best, managed to 3-0 this series over Scigib. It was quite clean cut in some areas, but we'll be going to the next one shortly between Rafa and Chambers. Also an awesome matchup, because Rafa continued to drop a map here and there, only showing signs of small weaknesses, and we'll have to see exactly how things will occur at a later date for him as he when we competed today. But you know, nice to see Chain at least get a map of the board just to show he's got some life left in it, or some fuel in the tank. But you know, in this Xenocube versus Scigib matchup, Xenocube doing what he does best here, and love to see Chain also making a slow but sure comeback as we approach the final week.
The final weeks are what we're going to be just highlighting. You know, there's not a lot of time left until those finals kick into full swing, and at that point, that's where it matters the most. All of these weeks that we're playing, you know, it's going to be fantastic for confidence, positioning on the leaderboard, which will ultimately lead to where you begin your journey in Romania. But at the same time, any amount of confidence you can build, even if that involves taking a map off Rafa, in a lot of these times where you'll have a best of 3 or something, you only need 2 maps and then you're good to go. So it spells a lot of talking points for quite a few. Rafa will not be satisfied with anything other than a 3-0, and that's just the nature of how he operates. So probably didn't end that week particularly happy with that result, even though he won it. But I guess that's just the nature of the beast when you are of that caliber, I suppose.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, even last season, like, we would find it be, well, just absurd in a lot of ways that he would even drop a map, but now he's been doing it time and time again. He knows that he doesn't want to show any kind of weaknesses to exploit leading up to the Quake World Championships. And even here, with Wenger versus Avik, this is the closest series by, you know, the clearest margin in comparison. Every single map went by 1 frag difference between the two. I think Wenger did actually take down Avik 2-1 in the end, but in terms of Wenger's record, normally Avik wins more than against Wenger in terms of like their matchups in the past, especially over the last few years. So Wenger was probably happy that he managed to finally take him down once more. And it was just very, very difficult for him, because we know what Wenger's like, we know what he's capable of, and week by week he's striding, or at least striving in some way, to his peak performance, getting ready for next month.
And with this final match that we're seeing before you, I mean, it was Kilson versus Maxter. Kilson was able to take home another win here. Constantly on the grind and really gunning for that #1 spot. That's really all Kilson cares about at this point, and it kind of goes back to what I talked about last time. Players that are constantly striving for perfection, Kilson comes relatively close to it, and that's one of the reasons that he has performed so well pretty much all year round. And it leads us into one of our final matchups actually of today, which is going to be even more Kilson going up against CNZ. And I've already seen people in chat, kind of kept an eye on it during the countdown, and there's a lot of talk over whether CNZ is going to be able to step up and take that win today. And I love that kind of discussion, because it's two different play styles, and you always love to see that. And then even after that, we're looking at the schedule of what we're going to be seeing today. Sparty versus Wenger first, Scigib, and then Dramis. Kind of goes back to what I said. Dramis is going to very much try and push for a 3-0 here, but Scigib, on the other hand, Scigib needs a win. There's really no other way to spin it, so very important for both these players. Maxter and Razy, I just always want to see what Razy's going to bring out. Sometimes he has these wild picks, these unusual champions, or whatever the case may be. Maxter continuing to be pretty phenomenal, if you ask me. And then finally, Kilson versus CNZ. But enough of that, really. I think it's time for us to jump into this first matchup that I think we've already kind of alluded to, Harry. Is that, what are we going to see? Because Wenger has been looking so good for so long. I know there's been a couple of weeks which haven't quite gone his way, but as we've had the road to the finals, anyone that's been watching Wenger's streams know that the scrims have been intense. He's been going up against multiple top-level players almost every day at this point. And it's also outside of the game, right? Focusing on fitness, focusing on real life, and anything that can keep you in, I suppose, prime position for what's going to be, more than likely, the most important tournament of Wenger's life so far.
Yeah, I feel like on paper, a lot of people will assume that Wenger will take this 3-0, but with Sparty, you don't know what he's going to bring to the table. He can be very solid at times. It can be very hot and cold on the server. It depends on what temperature he's going to be looking through today. I know it's blazing where we are at the moment, but for Sparty, he needs to try and really push things up. But the problem is, though, on paper, it could be the result we expect, because due to the fact that ever since Wenger slipped up a tad at that LAN back in November, he's been noticing and realizing that he wants to step up his game and just try and de-rust and try and hit his peak before we get to the Quake World Championships. We've seen him being grinding his streams, heavily scrimming every single day, making sure he's at his peak performance. And the question is, will he be able to reach that peak? I think slowly he has done over the course of the last 4 to 8 weeks so far, and he's going to continue to do that. And this is where Sparta needs to be a little bit worried for what Wenger's going to be up to.
Well, we'll take a look at the picks and bans and find out really how things are going to unfold here. So we're starting off with the Insomnia, and Mobility, as you will always expect, comes in full force. The Anarchy versus the Strog. Ruins of Sarnath after that. Scale Bearer quite rightly removed. A lot of players do not enjoy fighting that champion these days. So the Visor versus the Galenas. That actually does interest me. See what Wenger can do with the Visor there. And then Deep Embrace. Final map, which again, no surprises here. Athena on the side of Wenger. The kind of champion that fits him like a glove, and then the Doomslayer, something that Sparty likes because it's just nice and consistent, right? You haven't got to worry about the movement. You can focus on basically every other aspect of the map. Something that Sparty likes to do, heavily plays on those items. And this is the contrast of the two. It's so strange to always be talking about this with Sparty, but I think every single time we see him play in this setting, it's always apparent what kind of Sparty are we going to see, because when he's playing at his best, he looks absolutely world-class. The worrisome thing, is the word I should be using, is that we don't always get that, right? All it can take sometimes is one element on one map to go a little bit not your way, and then things start to just sort of slip through his fingers. You're going up against someone like Wenger, who's got really good execution, super smart, can punish even the smallest mistake. If Wenger senses in his bones, in even the smallest amount, that you're being bothered by something, he's just going to take full advantage of that. So I feel like personal matchup, this one favors Wenger. Wenger's more prepared for it. Judging by his streams this week, I think he's looking more than ready. I personally predict a 3-0. However, there is a chance that Sparty could take a map. An overall series win, not so sure though.
I think in terms of the map picks and the bans, it does actually favour Sparty, but I do agree with you with the fact that it should be a 3-0 anyway. Sparty banning Corrupted Keep makes perfect sense, because so far Wenger's been looking very good on Corrupted Keep, Ruins, and a little bit of Blood Covenant here and there. So it's been interesting to see his map pool does a variety of what he's good on, what he's not good on. It's been expressing himself a little bit more, and the fact that he's selected Insomnia, which is a very interesting pick for me through my eyes. Maybe he wants to try and dabble some other maps in a tournament setting or in a tournament situation like now to prepare for the Quake World Championships, which is perfectly understandable. But even though Sparty does have the advantage in terms of the map selection, you do feel like for Wenger, it's just a matter of time really to try and secure this 3-0. But he's probably hoping that for his case, because like I said before, we don't know what Sparty's going to bring. We don't know how he's going to be high on the throttle in terms of what he's going to do to the aim skill. That's what he heavily relies on a lot of occasions. There's some minor mistakes he does make, which costs him heavily. And against a player like Wenger, there's little room for error at this point, isn't there?
I'm just keeping a close eye on this first map. You know, I'm looking at the Anarchy pick, and I'm looking at the ability to deny so much armor above all else. The way Wenger will play can be somewhat similar to Arazi in some instances, especially on these smaller maps where the whole game is to say, it's not just the main items I want, it's the small ones. And if you're picking someone like Anarchy, who has that access to injection, if you've got full control, doesn't really matter if Sparty has a crouch slide, because Wenger's going to be able to beat him to the punch. So checking things out right now through Sparty's point of view, kicking things off here for our latest week of Quake Pro League. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and we'll stick together for a great day of Quake to come. Now, rail in hand for Sparty, currently all he's got, but actually, with that being all he's got, Wenger knows that's just the green light to push forward, and a very smart push it was. Now, this is the sort of snowball that we've seen on Insomnia quite a lot. Wenger's already been able to secure himself 2 frags here. The first one came from just understanding Sparty's lack of equipment, and then that second one was just, hey, look, you spawned there. All right, see you later, mate. Second frag, thank you very much.
Yeah, it's got to that stage already, and Wenger, we have to make note as well, he's barely taken any damage over the last 3 frags, so he can continue this aggression in the atomic control earlier, which he's going to regain or reclaim at this stage here. Looking very strong to start things off, keeping Sparty on his toes, even with the Anarchy. This is something we would hope to expect from Wenger, considering the amount of pressure he's put himself rather, in terms of his training regimen and the amount of practice here. Lovely rail once again, now up 4-0 this early on with just past the minute mark, and just trying to look to see if it gets spawn rail, but isn't going to be able to get it sadly, but does have another inject once he re-engages and uses that. Mega's coming up in the next 12 seconds. Heavy's not too surely behind. Looks like Sparty's just standing there, just waiting for Wenger to make the first move.
He kind of has to. He did everything he could given that situation where he takes loads of damage. He only had a rocket launcher, and that kind of increased mobility of Anarchy means that those kind of directs are almost not going to happen at all unless you get lucky. And then, thankfully, the Pika was able to push him off that jump pad, which did stop Wenger from making the push he wanted, kind of giving you that last-minute bonus rail, I guess. But Sparty doing really what he has to do. He can't overextend. He's only got a rocket and an LG. He has had very little access to that rail for that opening damage, and seeing as Wenger has consistently been out stacking him in these fights, and I mean he's keeping the injection too, this is a really scary fight to make. Now hang on a minute, gets a ton of damage from that Pika. Wenger does manage to take away that Mega, however, they're going to have to disengage, and that's going to allow Sparty to take a heavy. Now, with the right weapons, this could bring him into the fight, but unfortunately, that defensive rocket gave him a little bit extra damage that he did not want. Now Wenger forced to retreat here. This is the opening that Sparty's looking for, right? 2.5 minutes on the clock. We have so much of this map left to go. And with that delicious rail that Sparty was just able to land there. If he secures a frag now, right as the Mega's about to spawn in, well, dare I say, Heavy going to be up next, this would be best case scenario to mount a comeback.
And Wenger just needs to keep an eye on his ammo management as well. He had very little rails left earlier on. He's already gone past a rail, but he's more focused on just keeping height advantage and map control rather than worrying about the rails as of yet. But it's going to be so important for him. He's still railable actually at this stage. He's just keeping his distance from Sparty, and rightly so. He does have the info he needs. It's just a matter of picks up some of these lights and trying to recuperate, but still keeping that inject, which is going to be so important for him later on. But he doesn't need to use it as of yet. He'll still be railable. If he does use it, not anymore. Heavy's up the next 5 seconds, but he's already dropped down for Sparty, really. Sparty just jumps on it anyway, hits 47, but Sparty is going to be the one who wins that little scuffle and has to, at this stage, manage to stabilize things. He's able to, we know that the first full frag went Wenger's way within that 1 minute mark, got a little bit out of hand for him. Now Sparty's just slowly establishing control, just needs to make sure not to take too much unnecessary damage around top mid. It's actually waiting for Wenger to sneak on rounds, gets the Mega anyway. Heavy's up in the next 10 seconds, which is great for Sparty considering that with his items heavily segregated, it's going to give him a massive advantage here. Got the info he needs once again. He's going to be below, but how is he going to approach this? Good rocket from Wenger. Keeps him at that bay, picks up the Heavy. He could engage here again if he wants to, just needs to depend on the weapon selection, which is see if it can keep him at bay. But the problem is, though, it starts to go for the rail. I'm not too sure about that choice. Maybe she just kept up with the LG, but that's a huge win there for Wenger.
You always keep an eye on chat sometimes, and some people think that maybe the rail is relied on just a little bit too much. Even if that rail hit its mark, Wenger still would have been in a pretty decent position, and just the patient plays, looking for the right time to strike. With a rocket launcher and a shotgun, sometimes that's all Wenger actually needs. Springs a trap on you, get some wonderful opening damage, because, I mean, it's Wenger and his rails, known for being some of the absolute best in the business. And just like that, Wenger has been able to undo all of the hard work that Sparty worked so hard to bring into his favor. Now, Mega in play, and that's going to allow Sparty to push forward just a little bit. Wenger's going to have to go out of his way to get some ammo, which makes perfect sense. Rocket's a little bit far away from you, my friend, so absolutely we're going to sit here and wait for a minute. But now 5 minutes already gone. Opening rail doesn't hit its mark on either side, so that's just going to allow a little bit of a change here. Wenger picking up the remaining rockets that he definitely needs. It's been one of his miracle weapons so far, but the Unholy Trinity is ready to go. And back to that positional play. Mega's going to be the next item. Kind of happy at this point to let Sparty take the heavy, because, I mean, the damage on Wenger's side has been so high. All it will take really is one more instance where Sparty might go for a wrong weapon choice, miss the shot, and then by that point Wenger's been able to undo all the work that the heavy gave you. More of these rockets are fantastic. The injection gets popped. Wenger just shy of being railable. The aggressive push. Sparty choosing that it is the right time to go in, but with that positional advantage of Wenger, that is a risky heavy to take, but one that Wenger will allow. Again, 5-1. And if we can keep these lights together, and just like that, catch a good read on Sparty's movement, that rail would have been even better. Ah, the rails have not been 100% so far.
Yeah, still early on at this point. I do like how the way Wenger's playing at the moment. Normally, he's quite a colourful character when he tries to... Oh, that was a good rocket as well. As to trying to get back forward, and look at the aggression coming out from Sparty. Normally it's Wenger making these kind of plays, but we've seen a lot of a defensive stance or defensive posture from Wenger, just trying to keep his distance, know when to play it out. It's like good offensive and defense balance, just to make sure not only to keep Sparty guessing, but just to make the right reads. Good rail as well, and New's going to come through there straight away. Still has to inject. Still got 3.5 minutes left of play. And you've got to remember, the time is of the essence here, not in Sparty's favour. He needs to really try and get something on the board as soon as physically possible. But the problem is, Wenger is challenging every single one of these items. Yeah, sure, he's not getting all of them. As long as he's there to kind of at least be a bit of a detriment, a bit of a challenge here, just to try and could say a bit of a pain in the backside for them. Then that's the main worry. But you've got 18 items in favour of Sparty, only 8 on the side of Wenger, but at this stage it's perfectly understandable. Long as Wenger's doing the damage, that's the main concern for him. He's done 1,000 more damage, which kind of speaks volumes here, because it means that for Sparty, he hasn't been able to use the items that much to its full effect. And lovely rocket to rail combo there, just to make matters worse. Spawn rail as well, looking for the second. Will he be able to get it though? Even the use of the peek, he should be able to take it down anyway to finish things off. Nicely done there from Wenger. 7-1 in favour.
It's been a fantastic game plan from Wenger. Been watching it from his point of view for the last, well, fair few minutes at this point. And I mean, the game plan's clear. I don't mind giving up a bunch of these items, because if I can get a good read on where Sparty's going to go, I can get that opening shot and pretty much undo the damage and make it a lot harder for Sparty to push forward. Best case scenario, we can spring a trap, and that trap just results in maybe one frag, maybe an extra one off spawn, as we just saw. It's a very Wenger way of playing. Wenger's not the kind of player that lives and dies by those items. Sometimes the information is enough, and that slippery hit and run style reigns supreme, which it certainly has done. Only 2 minutes left to go now, Harry. And there is a monumental amount of work to do, and I think many would say impossible. Wenger's just done a fantastic job of keeping Sparty guessing, chasing him for the entire 8 minutes at this point. And it's just going to continue to be so. 10 seconds until that injection, so the chase will become even more annoying, which is not what Sparty wants. But, gotta say, perfectly executed by Wenger. Now, does manage to get a little bit of a good situation there, I suppose. 1.5 minutes to get 5 frags. I mean, for the sake of it being competitive, let's just assume maybe. But realistically, I don't think it's possible at all. Wenger's going to spawn, he'll be able to run away. Don't see it happening.
No, not at all. Even with the starting stack of the Anarchy, it's going to be very, very tough to even challenge Wenger in multiple ways. But this is what I like from Wenger as well. Normally we expect a lot of high-risk, high-reward plays from Wenger, but this is a a completely different version. He's basically playing Insomnia how it should be played. Keep your distance, get height control, hold the angles, make sure you get the advantage straight off the bat. And he's just done it every single time without fail. And this is what we need to see more from him. But I don't know if, in terms of map choice, like we'll see something a little bit different in terms of his style of play. Maybe a little bit more aggressive, especially on maps like Awoken, or maybe on maps like Ruins, we'll have to see. But I'm not going to lie, he's definitely taking a leaf out of Garby's book, being the Rocket Man himself, and a nice little flick there from Wenger just to add a few more frags to the tally. 30 seconds left remaining.
Everything here is going to be bonus. The map's done. We have to think about the next destination, and all there really is to be said is that Wenger played this map incredibly well, and that there was a rather clear game plan after those opening few minutes, right? Gave himself a sizable lead. Yes, Sparty was able to somewhat stabilize in, like, I guess a couple of minutes in, I think it was. My memory is a little bit like a sieve, so could be wrong, but sure it was. But Wenger just did what he had to do. You could see it in plain black and white. I'm going to sit there, be really patient and careful. If you take an item, that's totally fine. Actually, looking at the difference of pickups, it's 14 heavies and 12 megas to 6 megas and 4 heavies. Like, the game plan was so clear there because it was damage. It was, wow, actually, looking at those endgame stats, 1.6 thousand more damage for Wenger versus the less item pickups. So, perfect game plan for the young man. Maybe not so young anymore. I guess maybe for Quake he is. But a really good first map then. We have 2 left to go.
Yeah, you're right. It's like I said before, 26 items for Sparty, 10 for Wenger. But as long as Wenger keeps him in check in terms of getting those angles, getting those initial chip damage,
all he needed
to be able to contest his items, then yeah, of course. I think it's a little bit more difficult to play those high-risk, high-reward plays due to the amount of choke points and narrow corners you've got to deal with in Insomnia, which is why you normally see Wenger playing a little bit safer than what you'd normally expect, which is why maybe we see some of the other maps in play, something with so there's a small map geometry or something a little bit more open, like Ruins as an example. Deep Embrace is actually probably a clearer example, Ryan. Let's be real here. So we'll see a little bit more of that Wenger-esque kind of plays. We'll see. It could be a style which probably feels like suits him and maybe decides to prioritize leading up to the Quake World Championships. I have to find out. But yeah, we are going on to Ruins. We'll be the Galena versus the Visor matchup, and then later on will be the Doomslayer versus the Athena. And I'm not gonna lie to you, Ryan, I do love it when I see anyone with the Athena champion, especially on Deep Embrace. Wenger's an absolute madman on the server when he's competing against anyone. It's just an absolute delight to watch compete on it. But Ruins should be interesting in itself to see how he's going to go with that Visor.
It's an element of Wenger over the years, really, which it has been. Crazy to think that it has been years. I think the last 3 years have kind of merged into one for many of us, but it's been enough time for Wenger to simply continue to mature as a player. There's so many layers to how he can approach different matchups, and this map could very much be one of them. In fact, all 3 maps could be various playstyles, all within the same person behind the wheel, because we had that first map which was absolutely ambush heavy. It wasn't about snowballing as such, it was just all about keeping good information, keeping tabs, getting nice predictions on where your opponent's going to retreat after picking up an item, setting up a trap, and then the rest is history. Thank you very much, rocket launcher. Thank you very much, shotgun. Now, I think this map in particular, being Ruins, not just the fact that it's a larger map, but you've got the Galena and the Visor, we're not going to see as much insanity here. The 2 champions put forward just eliminates that from happening. You're not going to have all this crazy movement. You're going to have all this ridiculous kind of flashy play. But you are going to have a lot of information being gathered. And it's how you process that information. Something that Sparty is phenomenal with normally anyway, because he is an incredibly smart player. But then Wenger, on the other hand, he's going to have to micromanage those totems. He's going to have to be really careful about that piercing sight because, hey, look, more information the better. That rail, pretty decent, but could have been better on the last map. If that rail's good this time, then Visor's going to fit you quite happily.
I debating how this is going to be the same approach Wenger's going to go for in the past, because there's a very methodical or calculated kind of plays he was making. He was just playing it, like I said before, he was playing Insomnia how it should be played. But you got to remember, these 2 champions, the Galena and the Visor, very hourglass heavy. We may see him clash heads on a number of occasions, especially around the courtyard or around that tribal area. It's going to be a weird niche how these 2 are going to try and pan out, and who's going to heavily segregate the items very early on. Of course, challenging around that T-junction for Mega, or maybe dropping down a little bit earlier, or maybe a little bit unorthodox to try and avoid those audio cues as you're dropping down from that heavy jump pad or from top mid. There's going to be a lot of debates going around. I'm sure Sparty will be... It's weird to say that Sparty will be the aggressor compared to Wenger, because when you picture Wenger, you picture him to make, those initial plays, to force out the first mistake rather than the first mistake coming to him, which I do prefer in terms of Wenger's style of play and what he brings to the table. We've seen that his combat skills are like absolutely incredible when he played against Avik last week, because Avik's also another player, not with a high amount of dual experience with the adaptation, but also extremely good in terms of his combat skills there. So I'd like to see Wenger try and challenge him a little bit more for these items, not just in terms of being there and holding these angles, but just physically just going for them if he can. But as a light champion, especially with Anarchy, it can be a little bit tough, a little bit more difficult, as I explained earlier, with Insomnia having its pros and cons, especially as an Anarchy. But going to this matchup now, I think we are going to see a lot more flair from Wenger, and he's going to have to do it, especially if he wants to try and keep full map control.
Well, both players have just readied up. There was a couple of minutes of a break from one of them, so now we're both back and we're good to go. Thank you all for joining us, by the way. Just in case you got here, our latest week here of Quake Pro League. This is our first series of the day. We've got 3 more afterwards. So I think starting the show with Wenger versus Sparty, that's one hell of a way to kickstart our Saturday, isn't it? But at the same time, Wenger, one thing I was always going to bring up at this point, especially looking at the visor and how you can play on this kind of map, is that Wenger isn't afraid to play not necessarily your conventional game of Quake. If you're teaching someone how to play Quake, you go, right, you want to run the items, you want to do this, you want to do that. Wenger is the #1 player, I feel, that we have in the Pro League that's not afraid to kind of just do what he wants. And sometimes that can be allowing you to take them. And we saw elements of that in the first map, but as long as he's got really, really good denial-based damage, sometimes those items you pick up don't mean anything. And if we have someone like Visor behind the wheel with Wenger, I'm very excited to see how he handles the rail. And it's not just that, it's not just going to be the rail, but at the same time, that LG's pretty tasty too. But checking things out now, Wenger's point of view to kickstart, and he does manage to get a decent spawn for the champion as the rail's good to go. Sparty tries to get himself a little bit of info, and actually neither look to push forward on the items straight away. And a rather classic start for them. Wenger knows he can take the heavy pretty much whenever he wants. So let's get some info first. Could have got some damage maybe, but above all else, if we had a fair idea when Sparty might take the Mega, other way. But speaking of that though, Harry, Sparty's yet to take it. Now this is a very classic Sparty start. He still hasn't picked it up. He's going to go for the push first. He wants the damage first, because if he takes any damage here, he knows he can back up and take the Mega. Oh no! A bit of a misplay though. Tries to go for the rocket jump in case there was a rail angle handy, but oh, the idea was there, but the execution was a bit sloppy, mate.
Yeah, not something we would entirely expect here. And I love how, I was talking about the hourglasses around that courtyard. Wenger's already just prioritising that. He's actually left him there on purpose just to try and bait him into the courtyard, which I really like from Wenger so far. But for Sparty, we've seen him do some miraculous comebacks in the past. I'm sure Wenger's definitely made it a clear note of that. Got the info he needs, has to make a bear, but he's just going to pick up straight away. He's not going to mess around here, Ryan. And he knows full well that the heavy's going to be any second now. But look at this, though. He's actually still on the heavy jump pad. He left it there for a little bit of time. I think he was actually very lucky. If Wenger just pushed him really aggressively and really hard, he could have actually picked up the heavy and maybe secured that first frag of the game here. So I was saying it could be a bit of a slaughterhouse on Deep Embrace. We're not too sure how things are going to pan out in this map. If it's going to be slow and methodical like before, or if it's just going to be an absolute punch out. But Wenger does have the stack advantage, just keeping his ground, keeping his advantage. And this is what I like about Wenger as well. He's been keeping every advantage possible, unless he's got to go for some of his items. And he's been keeping his totals in check as well. So being really observant and really aware with where he could be laying his totals, what he could be doing. Sparty's holding his ground, hoping that he'll drop down there. Gets a little bit of damage, not enough to turn the tide here, but 8 seconds until that Mega comes. Wenger needs to really try and get as fast as physically possible if he wants to. But it looks like he's not even going to go for it. It's a little bit late there, but will Sparta be able to get it? He should be able to, depending on how his Rock and LGs play out. He will approach it in the end, but look at this. Both of them are just really debating how close they want to get to that Mega. Sparty does pick it up, but the rails from Wenger just absolutely sublime right now. Does back away, picks up the heavy. Shoe stack advantage once again, and then it will be for that fight for that Mega soon. Again, just keeping hold of those hourglasses around that courtyard, doing it every single time. And I'm sure a lot of the viewers have been picking up that as well, getting that first frag, and Wenger just making the same rotation every time, just going to that T-junction, going to that Mega, drop it down for the heavy, and just keep an eye on those hourglasses around courtyard every single time. And it seems to be working out really well for him. 2-0 lead, Mega's up, but he's going to be prioritising the heavy here, Ryan.
I mean, that was a devastating time to use Piercing Sight. I think Sparty actually tried to somewhat deny that, though, because he did delay his spawn a fair amount, and Wenger still able to figure out where he appeared. And hey, man, if I know you're down there, you got no weapons, you got nothing to fight, and it's no wonder Wenger got 2 for the price of 1. Thank you very much, Visor. However, yep. Really good use of teleporter there, because that had a direct with Sparty's name on it. What worries me, though, is, again, Wenger, the master of playing on the back foot, even when he's in the lead. I guess it's just a style that he's refined so well, but it took a while for a significant fight to break out on this map, and it took about 2.5 minutes, maybe. From this point, though, Wenger was able to secure himself 2 frags, just with how well he played it. He got the frag, popped the Piercing Sight, found the spawn, and then got himself another one. From this point on, if Wenger continues to play this highly, highly defensive game and uses this Piercing Sight to make it so Sparty is unable to pull any surprises, it's going to be a really, really hard comeback to make, even securing 1 frag. Because if Wenger has all of this information, especially considering he's prioritizing this side of the map, just take all those hourglasses, get your wall hack a lot more often than Galena gets the totems, and it's going to be hard. There's really no other way to say it. It's going to be very, very difficult. And here comes the opening Piercing Sight once again. I assume maybe Sparty might have heard it. I think he was close enough to hear that, so he's not going to want to push. But objective done. That means that Wenger scared him away from the heavy, and now the control just continues.
And Sparty, I don't think he's picked up on the rotations he's making. Wenger's been making the same rotations, as I said at the very beginning, for the last 5 minutes, and he just can't adapt around it. Wenger's not really given him many opportunities to even be able to do so. And I'm just looking at Sparty at the moment. He's actually got the totem placement. Wenger has actually been, he was very, very aware at the beginning, but now he's rotating around areas where he's not actually seeing where the totems are at the moment. But he will have the overstack. Ooh. Beautiful LG, and he's got the heavy once again, and he could have him trapped in the courtyard here, and he does, hits one, he could go for the other, he wants to try and make that approach. He should be able to get him down here considering the position Sparty's in, but sure, that's going to be a clean up. Yes, it is, 3-0, and this is just an incredible start. Could make it forward depending on how he's going to go about this. Hasn't really got any LG ammo, just got working his ammo management just a tad, but he should be happy nonetheless for the result. He's just the way he's performed at the very beginning here. In terms of item control, 7 for Sparty, 12 for Wenger, and again just keeping track of those hourglasses. This is just really clean and efficient here from Wenger.
The map so far has just been Wenger all over. This is the kind of playstyle that I've always loved to watch from him, the one that just makes it so... Oh, Midez! Oh! Talking about Wenger's playstyle, how about some of those world-famous rocket placements? But it kind of continues what I was talking about. Wenger easily in the last frag could have jumped down and maybe probably would have dedicated a little bit more if he hit that opening rail, but it's not really about the frag. It's just about keeping Sparty behind, because if someone's behind, then that's a victory in itself. Wenger, the use of this Piercing Sight has been fairly perfect. I can't really detect a single use of it so far that's been kind of confusing. Everything has served a significant purpose. And this, to me, is just showing such a deep understanding of the game and also your opponent. You know that you're going up against someone like Sparty. You might get a little bit frustrated having to constantly chase you, especially if a frag like that doesn't go your way. That's a frustrating frag to lose because you're both so weak. Now here's Wenger on the Mega, again popping the Piercing Sight just to make sure he can safely take it. Oh, God. And with that punishment over the missed rail, Wenger continues this reign of terror. And it looks again like this will be a minimum 2-0, maybe even a 3. Kind of goes to what I was talking about, right? I felt like we were going to get a drastically different playstyle or a game plan each map. I've seen it so far, and by pure default, Deep Embrace should likely provide that too. But I feel bad for Sparty here. I'm not really sure what he could have done because Wenger has played such a hilariously scary denial game. And the Piercing Sight has been a huge part of that. Sparty tries to make something happen. You got to disengage. You got to try and come up with plan B. While you're thinking about it, he knows where you are and he just finishes you off.
Mate, I don't think he's got a plan A at the moment. Sparty's tried to flank. He's tried to create a decision tree around Wenger. But Wenger has just been so good with his defensive rockets. Sparty's actually at one stage tried to chase down the kill, and he still couldn't. So Sparty's probably thinking to himself, what more do I have to do? What more do I need to do in order to try and get one frag on the board, let her down, take him down at this stage. Just using that piercing sight just to confirm where exactly Sparty is. This should be the 7th frag here for Wenger. Doesn't at least burn the heavy, which is going to make matters worse now. And finds an additional totem. Just everything going in Wenger's favour. And you kind of felt like this game, or this map alone, it never got out of control for Wenger, did it? Just made sure that he just choked him out on every single corner, every single choke point here. And yeah, Sparty's pretty much knows that he's pretty much done for here. He's cream crackered at this stage, and there's nothing more he can do. 90 seconds left remaining, 7-0. Sparty realises that this is done. Oh. This is absolutely done. There's nothing more he can do. And at this stage, you can blame him. Sparty tried multiple ways to get around it, but this, like you said, the denial play from Wenger just couldn't get around it. Just couldn't adapt.
It goes into the frustration that I'm talking about. There were a couple of fights where Wenger was, at death's door, but still able to take it. Sparty has had quite a few of these opening rails, kind of hit the terrain, even down near heavy. We saw the exact same kind of thing, tried to get that rail as you drop down, it looked like he hit the ceiling. And even there, trying to rocket jump to safety and just bumping himself on the map to the point where he goes, you know what, just kill me. Just kill me. This is... If I could describe this map in one way for Wenger, it was no fun allowed. And any time Sparty would have had to make something happen, it just wasn't clean, right? It was a dirty fight, it was a messy fight, and the kind of situation where most people would probably be tilted off the face of the earth, because you're just like, come on, can I just have one opening, please? Can I just have one frag? Something to go well for me. But he just can't. Nothing. There's nothing available to you. So this is the kind of map where, look, yeah, it's 9 to -1, whatever. Ultimately, Wenger played this once again like Insomnia, near perfect. And for Sparty, just wasn't very clean. The opportunities that were there, as few and far between as they were, they often ended in disaster. And this is a heartbreaker for watching Sparty. I think it's why it can be so heartbreaking watching him, because the ideas are there. You can see the game plan, even down to how that map began, where he almost for a full rotation of the main items did not pick up that mega. He tries to push forward, try and get some opening damage. Wenger returns a lot more than Sparty was probably expecting. So, okay, well, now I'm railable. Let me quickly rocket jump and just try and shut down the rail angle and get stuck on the ceiling. And it's like, part of me felt that opening sequence was foreshadowing for the rest of the map. And I kind of feel like it was.
Yeah, it's like what I said at the beginning before the map began. I said Courtyard's going to be very, very important for both his players, really, especially for Wenger to try and redeem that piercing sight as fast as physically possible, but also the recovery path with the light armor and the 2 health bubbles around that Courtyard. It's one of the most important areas in the map in order to really keep a grasp of, also keep control of at the exact same time. But not only that, it's like I said earlier, with the fact that you never felt like Wenger lost control at all in the slightest. And when he had done, he would put himself in a position where he could fire some nice, easy defensive rockets. And you saw at one stage, Sparty tried to do everything he could, even got to the point where he had to chase him down. Couldn't catch him up because he doesn't have the means or the agility like the other champions to try and at least put a bit of pressure on. And again, the defensive rocket just came out to play, 9 to -1. It was just a really clean-cut game. And against a player like Sparty, where he's the sort of guy where he can make some huge comebacks and things can get a little bit out of control and it's very hard to stabilize the matchup again, it's tough. But hopefully for Deep Embrace, things may change up for a little bit for Sparty. This is one of his map picks. It's actually one of his better maps, if I remember from the top of my head. But against an Athena, again, it could be troublesome.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I mean, Deep Embrace can be a map where you can make those last-minute moments happen, but I'm looking at the fact of how this series has already gone, that Wenger has played both of those maps perfectly, not just in game plan, but his champion usage. I didn't really get a chance to talk about it at the end of the second map because we were so busy talking about the opposite end of it. Not to be too negative, of course, but Wenger's use of that piercing sight was some of the most impressive I've seen in some time. Every single time he popped it, it just meant, what can Sparty do about this? And that has always been, for me, the most enjoyable way of watching that champion get played at this level. But now we have Deep Embrace, we have Athena, who is already seen to be one of the most powerful characters on this map by far. Someone like Wenger, who is hitting a lot of really good shots. The pressure is being laid on thick. I don't see this being a 2-1. I strongly feel that this will be a 3-0. I'd like to be wrong. I would like very much to be wrong. But I just feel like the pieces of the puzzle are just in place for Wenger, and this could very well be his map too.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. We'll see what happens anyway. All I can say is the fact that in terms of the starting stack for Wenger, it may help Sparty out a little bit, but it's the case of just being able to take him down full stop. We haven't really seen much of that at all in the slightest, which is not something we're normally used to or catered to anyway. But we'll see what happens anyway. We'll see what happens. As Wenger now starting things off. Only got the LG in hand and the super shot. He hasn't got the rocket sort of rail. He has been denied that heavily as Sparty just holding that angle and realizes this too. So just continuing on to try and use those ranged weapons to good use, but at least Wenger's got a heavy machine gun to do a little bit of damage here. Has to take that first rail. Oh my god, the amount of damage he did to that heavy machine gun, but the Mega's up. And the Heavy's already being picked up by Sparty, but oh, the rocket's gonna be huge here for Wenger, but still he is available, but will he be able to take it down beforehand? And that was a beautiful mid-air rocket there. Great way to start things off for Wenger.
But again, a frustrating way to lose out on that first frag. Sparty did so much right. However, really good there. Able to take that armor. Thank you very much. But yeah, I mean, controlling that high ground, getting a bunch of damage, really not having to make a choice. You know, Wenger, I felt like there was a moment where, do I go for this mega here or do I want to prioritize taking the rail? There was a moment of hesitation. Sparty didn't have to hesitate because he's sitting up top and he can just listen out and wait for what you're going to do. It's just that the turnaround factor of Wenger has always been world class, to the point where it's like, how did he survive this? Now, the LG 1v1 does break through. However, both players extremely weak. Heavy in play. A scary game of these rockets just zip past Wenger's face. And there's the push towards Heavy. Perfect timing, and happy to take any return damage because I'm going to kill you faster than you take me out.
It's a bit of a problem there for Sparta, as you saw. It was either he pushes on him. If he actually maybe pushed him a little bit sooner, it could have been a little bit more of a game changer. But you can see what Wenger's game plan was straight away. Just try and hold off as much as possible and then wait for the Heavy to appear, grapple up, and you're going to take that LG fight for days, of course. But Wenger already all the way around. It's still quite weak, but once again, the Heavy has been picked up in favor of Wenger, up 3-1, looking very strong to start things off. Mega's up in the next 10 seconds, which is going to be bad for Sparty, because at least if it was segregated a tad, then it would have been okay. But goes please on through, picks up the LG. Wenger just still holding on to top mid. In 2.5 minutes of play going forward. But Sparty has picked up their Mega, so at least he can establish some kind of control. But good heavy machine gun again from Wenger. Sparty to push on quick though, but it looks like it's going to be too little too late. Approaching that Heavy. At least he's got the timing for it. It's not going to change the fact that Wenger very strong. Sparty trying to catch up with a 3 frag deficit. Could be a 4 frag deficit, which it will be here. Need to try and recover as soon as physically possible. Looking very good with the Athena here on Deep Embrace.
I don't know how I feel about some of these pushes.
Debatable.
I don't want to be too negative here, but there comes a point where you just need to respect Wenger's damage output. Even down to that Heavy, you know, Sparty, maybe there's an element of thinking, I have to try and push for this Heavy because I don't want him to just pick it up for free. In that instance, able to take it, which is fantastic for Sparty. But there's been some fights here and some pushes where I'm like, I don't know what outcome was expecting. Maybe scramble out the frag a little bit, but Wenger has been doing so much damage all series long that surely he knows. He has to know how much damage Wenger is going to put forward here. Nice shot. Wonderful shot. And there's actually time. There's time to push. Heavy's not up for 5 seconds.
Mega's still up though. They're both just baiting each other from top to bottom. Wenger's still got at least a grapple left to go for that Heavy, but he's got to ask himself, what is he going to go for? Of course, he's going to go straight for that Heavy to at least help himself at a later date. And Wenger now just going to be pushing on forward. The timing of the items are almost equal.
This is a good situation for Wenger, though. He's got a light armor to fall back on. He knows the Mega's just been taken, so he'll have a rough estimate of the item timing. But with that frag in play, he knows he can pressure off Spawn. Oh, God, Sparty, what do you do? I was about to say, was he going to pop Berserk even earlier? Because you're done. There's nothing you can do in that situation. Wenger's just piled on top of you. I don't even think he had a chance to get the rail. And that's just going to be another good push. Denies the Heavy, though. Wenger a little bit late on that one. Sparty pushing in aggressively, but taking so much damage. Can't finish it with the shotgun, but oh, the push again. But in this case, Wenger, never mind. Sparty spawns and says, wait a minute, remember me?
It's interesting in itself. It's amazing how well Wenger's playing at this level on a map like this, where it's small, very open, very difficult to kind of get away from your opponent and get yourself out of a bad situation, especially when you're very weak and still making these right reads. But sometimes Athena can help you out of that, out of his little scuffles here and there. But some good rails here from Sparty, and if he keeps this up, he can go for the spawn frag straight afterwards. But at least he catches him. Nice rail straight afterwards from the LG. Sparty now just biding his time. I mean, should know that he's going to spawn shotgun. Mega's up in the next 15 seconds. He may just prioritize for heavy, or actually in that retrospect, he can just go for both at this point. No reason not to. And he's going to catch him here. This is a perfect chance here for Sparty to come back in this matchup. Oh no! That's like the worst thing that could have happened, considering he didn't really take a huge amount of damage in that last bout. But then again, no, he's got the LG, he's picked up the light, it can keep him at bay. Mega's still up, Sparty's going to know that, or they're both going to know that at this point. But the question is, who's going to go for it first? Wenger, way too weak. Sparty may just leave him here at this point and go for it, or at least put himself in a better angle. But this stage in the game, he isn't raidable. He'll have 1 HP afterwards, but he does get away, go for the Mega, but he's going to go for the health bubbles first, just to add a little bit more.
I mean, Sparty was doing the smart thing there. He knows that Wenger's going to prioritize armor over Mega. Being a light with no armor, you're a done deal if you get caught out. So he stuck around, tries to put that pressure on. The nice turnaround rail, fantastic stuff, and off the back of a disastrous ring out. Very good that Sparty's been able to keep himself back into this game. And he's continuing to play well. We've said in the past that some of these disasters, I mean, come on, they're going to bother anyone, you know. They're not even Sparty in particular. But right now, hasn't been bothering him. However, that vertical LG, oh my goodness. Damage from seemingly nowhere from that point. But my point is that Sparty's playing well still, and that's what I like to see here. This victory is still possible. 3 minutes to go, 4 frags. You're dealing with a light champion. The fights have been going a little bit better for him so far. You know, there were some aggressive pushes earlier that I think some people were scratching their heads about, making a bit more sense now, but these missed rails, they could come back to haunt him. The heavy does manage to get snapped up by Wenger, and just like that, Sparty not in a fantastic position himself. No armor to work with. That rail, exactly what he needed. And it will force Wenger to disengage, but he backs up! Oh, was that a read? Was that a little trick that he pulled on you? Or whatever it is, 2.5 minutes to get now 5 frags does not sound as realistic, Harry.
Yeah, it doesn't seem that appealing at this point in time. Is Wenger now just doing everything he can just to pile on the pressure, and he has done. He managed to pick up the heavy once again. We haven't really seen many rails from Wenger, but 57% cleans up Sparty beautifully again. Nice little spawn rail as well, but needs to back away once more. Mega's up in the next few seconds here. Of course, he's got atomic control, find the info he needs, and then prioritize the Mega straight after, which he has done. So he knows that he's going to be pushing atomic straight away again, but he'll scuffle once more. Good mid-air rocket again. That's it. That's pretty much done. The spawn rail as well goes 2 for 2 straight afterwards, back-to-back frags. Looking for the spawn rail again on the LG, but lucky for Sparty's case, just barely misses. But at this point, the damage has already been done here, Ryan. I think it's got to a stage where 9 seconds left, 8 frags, not going to occur. And so far, Wenger just playing an immaculate game. All 3 maps, to be honest.
He has done. I think a lot of people might have predicted a 3-0 here. I would have enjoyed to have seen a map win here from Sparty, but it just, for a lack of a better term, has not been his day. You've kind of seen it from some elements of the gameplay. You know, I think particularly that second map has not given up hope in this third map at all. But at the end of the day, Wenger will be taking this home with a 3-0. A really good result that he'll be happy to take. Make no mistake. We only have a few weeks left until the World Finals, so any kind of dominant victory you can get beforehand is going to make you feel pretty damn good, I expect. But on Sparty's side, it's unfortunate to see it. There were a rather high concentration of just straight up disasters. And even if that wasn't a rail, I think that would have been a ring out. It has not been Sparty's day today.
It certainly hasn't, no. His style of play is just not going to work against Wenger at all, no matter how hard he tries to adapt. But you know what it's like with Sparty? It's not really much of a in terms of adaptation. He's a very open-esque player, isn't he? Like, you know, he feels what he goes through depending on the matchup. But 50 seconds left remaining. Wenger's just making it just hard work at the moment. Use the berserk just to clean him up. 10 frags behind. But I think we expected this as well from what we saw from the previous 2 maps, wasn't it? It's the fact that we knew it's going to be a tough road for Sparty. He will collect a few more frags, yes, in terms of trade potential, but that is going to be about it. Wenger looking really solid, really strong, almost ready, I'd say, for the Quake World Championships. Only 5 weeks away, but yeah, Sparty obviously back on the road again to try and claw up any more W's in future weeks. But Wenger, again, just textbook work. Great reads, great listen to audio cues, just good that offensive and defensive balance. Couldn't ask for more, really, could you?
In all 3 of those maps, one of the main factors was that there was about 1.5, 1.6k more damage. Wenger thoroughly outdamaged Sparty in all 3 of these maps. And it kind of unfolded, especially after you see that first map and then a little bit of the second one, where the idea that you have in your head of how he's going to play it starts to unfold. We kind of knew what we were going to see in Deep Embrace. You know, we were going to see a very slippery game plan here from Wenger. So many of these frags were just... You're not used to seeing a light champion be able to turn the tide the way he could on so many of these occasions. And then on the opposite end, Sparty finally starts to make something happen, ends up with a decent little streak going, right? There's a chance to bring this one back and boom, ring out from a rocket that was far too close. It always seems to happen to Sparty, doesn't it? And that's really, really unfortunate. But Wenger played phenomenally well today, and that's what we're going to end their series talking about, is that he's in absolutely fantastic shape. And as I said before, World Finals are not very far away, so if he continues to play like this, I'm looking forward to seeing how he plays on LAN.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how Wenger performs, or just what style of play he brings to the table when he's the one on the losing end in terms of being quite far behind, because we didn't see any of that at all. He had the lead from the get-go on all 3 maps, but I want to see what happens when someone very aggressive with that adaptation challenges him, and to see how he actually reacts. But people need to understand as well with the fact that with Sparty, it can happen to the best of people. Look at the matchup 2 weeks ago between Maxter and Rafa. There was a time where Rafa, obviously very strong in Blood Covenant, couldn't get a frag on Maxter, could he? Maxter, I think, won that 10-0, I believe. It does happen to the best of us. Sadly, this time for Sparta on all 3 maps, and it's just back to the drawing board once again.
But if you enjoy what you see there from Wenger, streams almost every day, it seems. Every time I'm on Twitch, there's always that little icon on the left that says Wenger, Road to QuakeCon, scrimming with various top-level competitions. So it's no wonder, really, that players are getting as ready as they are. They have to. They're going to be taking it as seriously as they can. A lot of people, there's a lot of anticipation. A lot of people are keeping an eye out on their favourite players, right? So everyone wants to perform. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, our next matchup of the day will be here. So this is Quake World Championships. We're continuing the Pro League in this latest week. We'll be back in a short break. Welcome back, everyone. You're currently watching our latest week here of the Quake Pro League. My name's Ketchup, joined by Lethal. And I've got to give our players props. They were in this lobby, like, basically when the break began. So they're pretty much primed up and good to go. It's going to be Scigib versus Dramis. We always have a lot to talk about with all of our players here. But with this one in particular, this is another example of a player that has been kind of inconsistent, to say the least, over the last few months, I guess. With such a good start. Dramis was looking really, really good and kind of fell off a little bit. And over the last few weeks, anyone that's been following Dramis on social media knows that the grind has been rather intense over recently, I think is fair to say, where World Championships aren't far away. Dramis knows it. Dramis has been knuckling down and trying to get some final good results to kind of give himself that best chance as we go into Romania. But then someone like Scigib not had the best journey this year. I'd like to see him get a win purely because he's in a position where he really needs any win he can get at this point, which is unfortunate to say. But again, anything you can get in those closing moments is going to be good for the morale, if anything else, if there's nothing else to gain.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a shame, really, because it's not something you'd expect from Scigib, like, a couple of years ago. The fact that he hasn't got a single W on the board, this could be his time to do it. Maybe he's doing it on purpose to throw people off. It's like some crazy 200 IQ play leading up to the Quake World Championships, so I have absolutely no idea. But what you said about Dramis was, in terms of his consistency, yeah, it's balmy, isn't it? The fact that he took down Rafa, Wenger, Razy at the start of the season, it was unheard of. We were like, okay, this guy's coming out swinging. But he had a little bit of a loss streak recently, but he managed to fix that, taking down Sparty, his previous opponent, going into this matchup. So he should be feeling a little bit more comfortable. But we know what Dramis is like. He'll probably go into the hyperbolic time chamber in between the 2 weeks between the last week leading up to the Quake World Championships. And I do feel like he still could be one of the biggest dark horses on the competition, considering that he could just be absolutely anyone and everyone depending on how he performs on the day.
Well, we'll take a look at the picks and bans real quick. It looks like we'll be starting off with the Battle of the Heavies on Vale. Awoken afterwards with the Athena versus the Anarchy. And then Ruins of Sarnath again. Slash coming out to play. Love to see it. And then the Galena on the side of Dramis. Vale of Nath, I mean, it's very common with these two players. And I guess we're going to expect a brawl. Two heavies.
Yeah, it's I think one thing to point out as well is that Scale banned straight away. I think most people do that on Vale, which is perfectly understandable. I think 40's gonna be pretty damn happy with the fact that he's gonna see a kill matchup against a Sorlag. Not something we normally see every day. Normally see an Eisen versus Galena. Always see a Galena somehow, some way, don't we? But this kill is gonna be very tough to defeat in terms of the pineapples in those choke points, and then go to the next one. Actually, champions aside, I want to go through the map picks. The fact that we've got Vale, Awoken, and Ruins. The only sad thing for Scigib, in terms of like what he's got to play up against, the best maps Dramis has in his arsenal in terms of how well he's been in statistically, his best maps have been Vale, Awoken, Ruins. And what we've got in this matchup, Ryan, we've got Vale, Awoken, and we've got Ruins as the final matchup. So not, in terms of map picks, heavily favouring Dramis. I do think it favours him, especially in terms of the champion picks as well. I like the slash coming out from Scigib because it's a Galena, just to clean up those totems a little bit faster than required, and obviously with the awareness as well coming in from Scigib should help him out a tad. But just a bit unfortunate with the map choices here. He has decided to ban Blood Covenant right at the very beginning, maybe because it's something he's not too keen on, rather than what he's worried about in terms of how Dramis is feeling. Dramis taking now Corrupted Keep. But I'm surprised because he could have removed Awoken if he wanted to, because he knows that Scigib, one of his best maps, is Awoken. But the problem is Dramis is also equally as good. So he's basically saying, I'm more than happy to come to your yard and take it down on your best maps. So he seems to be pretty damn comfortable. But the fact that statistically all three of his maps in his favour are in this map pool, it's going to be a very tough road here for Scigib.
Well, I had a look at the predictions earlier today, and it seemed like the people did favour Dramis. I'm actually going to go and check and make sure. Oh, good lord, yeah, that's a lot more extreme in the side of Dramis now than when I last checked, which I kind of echo that opinion. It just seems like weighing up these two players side to side, I think Dramis will just have the edge. He's been incredibly hungry over the last few weeks. The morale seems kind of high too, and Dramis knows he can get it done if he needs to. He's been able to prove it by taking out literally the best players in the world. So if Dramis is able to bring that current inconsistent A game, right? You know, when he actually brings it, he looks incredibly powerful. If he does that today, I think it's going to be quite difficult for Scigib. On the flip side, if Scigib does manage to get a map, I kind of feel like it would be just one map, just by what we've seen pretty much all year round. Both players need this. They really want to get some kind of nice victory secured in these closing weeks. Dramas in particular, you know, this is a really good opportunity for him to end things on a high, and then simply you just prepare for the coming weeks, you know, because that's where the grind is going to hit an even higher caliber than it was before. So feel like Dramas is going to take this one. Both players are readying up, so rest assured in a few minutes we'll be jumping in and Veil of Nath will begin.
I love how you said it as well, like these two players are very eager to play, because you were right. I'm pretty sure they joined the server I must have been literally straight after that last matchup, weren't they? So they really
joined
want
the
to get
server
ready.
before you got back, mate.
Yeah.
That's it. You know,
They got on the server before
Harry stepped out. I don't know if it was like a cup of coffee or something, but they were here before you even sat back down. As Scigib would say, born.
Yeah, literally. He was born to play, but born to try and get at least one W to kind of boost his confidence just a tad. But I think for Scigib, I don't think it matters how many wins or how many map wins he gets now. I think he will solidify 13th on the leaderboard coming into the Quake World Championships. Drams is currently 9th, but he still has a chance to push at least in the top 8. But it depends how he rolls. If he manages to win this 3-0 outright, and I'm not too sure if he's got any more matches coming up. But this is going to be very important for Dramas. So you want the best seed possible. If he wins this and gets a 3-0, he may be able to solidify that top 8 spot. But we'll see. We'll find out shortly as we're going to map number 1 of this second series here, right between Scigib and Dramas. We did say that Dramas has probably got the advantage in all 3 of his maps, as he's statistically been looking very, very strong. But Scigib will be starting off with his POV to see exactly what mischief he's going to be up to.
The cameras are obviously swapped around, but don't worry. There we go. Don't worry, stream. We caught it. I know you all point it out. And rest assured, I guarantee 20 people probably pointed out. But don't worry, we're ready. We're good to go. You didn't see nothing. I don't know what you're talking about. However, we are looking at things currently through Scigib's point of view. And the opening play towards Heavy will commence. And for these Heavy champions, armor is very much welcomed. We're going to trade 1 item each so far. No rocket ready for Scigib just yet, but I feel like that's just about to change, perhaps. The LG going to be one of the prime weapons in this matchup, as it often tends to be. And now Scigib. I was just about to say before that sneaky rail that I think Scigib had lost sight of where Dramas was. He was already listening out, but Dramas was making his position nice and hidden. And it's going to set up kind of nicely for this next rotation of items. 4 seconds left to go. I think it's likely Dramas is going to make this push. And Scigib was prepared for it. Nice positional play, actually, to make it so he can take this mega. However, rail versus rail versus rail. Misses the shot. Expects Dramas to run a little bit more forward. But that would have been the kill shot. That's an unfortunate way to miss it.
Fair play to Dramas as well. He was at a disadvantage in terms of stack, and he did such a huge amount of damage. Oh, Scigib's actually available now. He needs to try and back away as soon as physically possible. Still try and keep that angle, using the spit to try and keep him at bay to pick up this mega. But do you know what? It's done its dues. You may question maybe should have Dramas pushed up into the spit just to make sure to secure that. But of course, he didn't know how reliable he was. He probably assumed he wasn't, maybe because he assumed that he picked up that light up the top, which he didn't. And now Scigib just standing his ground here. Remember, he does have the agility he needs with the Soul Lag to maybe take a few risks picking up some of his items. And also chasing the frag as he sees fit. But again, needs to keep an eye on his ammo management. He hasn't got many rockets or rails left to contend these next items soon enough. Realises that, refills with the rockets. And does hear the audio cue directly above him. Backs off straight away. Items aren't giving up for another 15 seconds here, but both players now heavily stacked. We're just waiting for this next engagement here and who's going to go for what, where, and how. And it looks like Scigib has the advantage going for this heavy, but he's already taken way too much damage in the forefront. Good try bolt as well, just to add a little bit more to Vitalia, considering he wasn't really in the... he was in a good position, but just didn't have the health in order to continue contending of that heavy earlier on. So very uncharacteristic here, you know, no frags as of yet. 3 minutes have passed and both of them just playing a very calculated approach at the start of his first map.
Yeah, the issue being Dramas has had way more armor all the way through, so He was happy to make that push if necessary. He's done a ton of LG damage, and Scigib kind of doing all he can in that position. He knows he's so weak that if he pulls out anything other than a rocket, he's probably not going to get the damage that he needs. So do as much as you can for bonus. You'll spawn with a good stack. We can push forward and, in this instance, actually steal the Mega and get yourself a frag as a bonus little prize. Well played. Able to avoid the grenades, so Dramus isn't going to get that little bit of information. But okay, it was like a kind of careful 3.5 minutes, and then there was a rather explosive encounter. And now I feel like we might be going back to a little bit more methodical. Hang on a minute, though. Maybe I spoke too soon. That opening rail might have other plans. There's the acid ticking down. Knows that Dramus is running underneath, but it's far too risky to push towards that heavy. But what has Scigib done now, though? The Mega is in play, a little bit of armor, but that's not going to save your skin if we encounter each other right now, which is probably what Scigib doesn't want without some opening damage. But without a rail, that might be kind of difficult. Oh, God. Oh, dear. 2-piece, make it 3-piece.
These pineapples are just incredible so far from Dramus. Scigib made the right approach, though, instead of going for that heavy. Might as well go for the Mega and the light rather than the heavy, because he probably assumed, knowing his luck, he's probably going to get railed anyway, and he's going to be so weak. Dramus would have cleaned him up nicely and picking up that Mega and the light. Speaking of the Mega and the light, though, it is available for him. Does pick up one. Good rails as well for Dramus. Scigib just knocking on death's door here, just trying to recover if he can. Picks up the light, but the problem is he's in no man's land. Directly above Dramus, but I like this one. Oh my God. What a mid-air direct as well. And it wasn't even just a read, just relied on the audio cue. Perfect stuff there from Dramus. Scigib now back to the drawing board.
I feel like that was just an incredible read to make. You know there's nothing left to pick up. Scigib isn't going to stick around for the item yet because he's way too weak to make something happen. So that rocket was kind of all he needed. Now they are going to trade a rocket back and forth though. Dramus able to get 100 before going down, spawning with a fresh stack. Not the worst thing in the world for him. He pushes aggressively with this rail and continues. Oh, good lord, that grenade finishes the job right as heavy spawns. And Scigib can't really shut it down either. The steal is real. Dramus isn't very healthy, but he's got some pretty decent weapons. Just doesn't have an LG.
Such a shame. Scigib even had that point blank to continue with that aggression, trying to clean things up. But again, the pineapples being just hindering the performance here for Scigib. Just can't really do much about it, but it does clean him up quite efficiently there. Then we've got 4 minutes left. Only one frag behind, so still a close affair. Pineapple's not going to help him at all in the slightest here. The pineapple's coming up from Dramus, though, just been remarkable throughout the entirety of this matchup. Both items have been picked up. Still got a while yet, so we're going to see a little bout here. Good rail coming out from Dramus as he backs away once again. Heavy's going to be up first, but at the same time, though, it's going to be a question of who's going to go for what, where, and how. As Scigib looks like he's going to be trying to pressure towards the heavy, but again, the weapon selection not going to do himself any favours at all. Dramus is going to get a lovely but clean frag there. Picks up the heavy. He can go straight for the Mega as he sees fit, depending if he gets there in time, but he's not going to rocket jump up. Be a little bit too late for that, but he's doing a lot of damage here still. Good rails on Scigib, but is he get taken down? No, he should not. 30 HP, would he go for the trade?
Might try and refrag, might not. But I got to say, when Scigib went up that jump pad, I mean, trying as hard as he can. Oh, God, that pineapple into rail combo was unbelievable. Finishing things off nice and easily. Dramus has been just happy to sit and listen. Now that's been the aim of the game for him so far. Let Scigib kind of go where he wants to go. As long as Dramus knows where he is, he can get so many of these shots. 3 rails back to back. And this is the worst time for things to snowball. We've got less than 3 minutes left to go. We're heavy champions, so I mean, even if you get Dramus, he's going to have a giant stack, so you're not going to be able to snowball as much as you would like to. This could very well have ended the map for Scigib, as Dramus probably going to take this one to 0. Scigib, though, able to turn things around, and just like that, 4 frags in less than 2 minutes can happen. With over 2 minutes, you've got a bit more time to work with.
Certainly does. That's definitely one way to create a momentum shift for Dramus, but a couple of minutes left in play. Scigib is going to have to just take all the risks in the world in order to make this work. And this is actually a good start. There's quite a clean frag, so has time, has a couple of minutes left. Spit will come up any second now. It's got the information on his opponent. It's a matter of whether he's going to be able to do any damage as he goes towards that heavy, which he doesn't, and which means that Dramus is going to have that stack advantage, not until picking up that Mega from Scigib, but he's got the agility in his favour. He's got the movement speed he needs. It's just an order of being able to try and execute some of these frags perfectly, and it's about weapon selection as well. This is looking very good so far, though. He could clean up nicely if he can, but he doesn't. The pineapple comes out in fruition once again. Here, Ryan, and gets the rail as well, just making matters worse here. And it's got the light, the health bubble as well. He's recovered. And yeah, this is not looking too good now for Scigib. This looks like it's going to be a first map win for Dramus, depending on the circumstances here. But it's looking highly likely.
Yeah, with that last frag, the unreturned heavy that Dramus was able to just pick up without having to really do anything, that made him more than healthy enough to make that fight forward, which pretty much sealed the fate of this first map. Dramus is going to go 1-0 up. There's a little bit more Quake left to play between these two, but yeah, Dramus had a lot of confidence in this game plan. You see a lot of these matchups on Vale, quite often a battle of the heavies, and it does tend to be these two because Scalebearer rarely makes it through. However, I think Dramus is going to feel pretty good about that one. Not much else to break down, I think, from the personal player side of things. I mean, Dramus was just kind of doing what he does on this map, which is pick a heavy champion, have a lot of accuracy, you know, belief in his aim, and he was able to just do what he wanted to do. It's as simple as that. 20 seconds left to go, and this map will be finished, so all that's left to do is thinking about the future and what next map will bring forward for us. As Dramus tries to give us a bonus highlight reel, perhaps. Oh, okay. Maybe it's Scigib.
That's one to add to the reel, isn't it? But you're right, though. It was a little bit unfortunate at times. Of course, the Pineapples played a huge part of that, used them at the right times. Good contested the items. So I don't think he played bad at all. I think he played quite well, considering the position he was in half the time and trying to keep those items in check. He did struggle to go for the heavy, even with height advantage, which was a little bit of a worry. But that 3-3 with the rails around LG, I think that was the turning point, wasn't that? Was the momentum shift which Dramus was looking for, and Scigib was probably looking at the clock thinking, yeah, I've got to do something now, got to do some high risk, high rewards. If I don't, then that's it, curtains. And it was pretty much. It's probably what we expected here. And you've got to remember, these map picks are all favouring Dramus here at this point, so it's going to be a very, very tough road for him. Maybe some free channel points for a lot of the viewers in chat here, but we'll see how things go, because Scigib's still looking for that first series win. He still has a chance here, still got 2 more maps left to go. It will be on his map choice soon enough on Awoken, but yeah, I like what I've seen for Scigib, but it's just, again, like I mentioned before, a little bit unfortunate, but yeah, that mid-air direct rocket was just beautifully timed from Dramus, just one of many, we can say.
You get to see Keel used at this level. You start to see the game plan and why the aggression, constant aggression, really starts to rear its head. Because you just look at, you know, how do you mount an element of momentum on a map like this? Well, the goal is to get clean frags, right? And that's going to be a little bit harder against heavies because they're going to spawn with this large stack and they're probably going to go in and try and throw down anyway. However, the damage output from Dramus, especially with as rail heavy as he can be, the damage is so high, it just doesn't seem to matter what kind of champion you are. If you get rail, couple of pineapples and another rail, most champions are not surviving that off a basic stack. So when we see Dramus, sometimes we'll see him on Vale and he'll try and do that exact same thing against some people and it just won't work, but he'll continue to do it. I guess the reason being is that, hey, look, if it does work and I get one clean frag, that's the layer that we can start to push forward. We can start to be aggressive. We can keep our damage output high. I guess it's quite a demanding playstyle because you need to hit those shots, right? You miss one of those rails, those pineapples aren't going to do anything if they're LGing you to death. But we got to see a example of that strategy working. Don't see it every day, but we'll take it. Now, we've went from 2 heavies now to 2 lights. It's going to be Awoken as our next map, and another map famous for its combat, and these 2 players happy to do that. But mobility. Again, Dramus on Athena. We've seen Athena for months. We know what she can do in the hands of a really good player. I'm looking forward to seeing how Scigib tackles this one, though, because him having access to that inject just changes things up a little bit, right? He might have that luxury to play a little bit slower. Can he put a lid on Dramus, as it were? He did pretty well on the last map. It's just things got out of control. You know, things started to slip through the cracks almost.
Yeah, and you got, sorry, with the Athena as well, it's like, with the grapples, it's a get out of jail free card, but at the same time, you can easily close out some of these frags at the same time, just abusing that verticality on this map. But We have to also talk about that last map with the fact that we didn't mention Dramus had 2,800 damage, 66% rail, and it's a bit of a worry at times considering that Scigib more often than not was the one with the angles and the advantage, and Dramus just kept flying on in with that rail, and that was just some incredible plays here. But you're right though, with the injecting play, it's going to do dividends in some areas depending on the circumstances and the scenarios he puts himself in. And speak of the devil, we're going to start for Scigib's POV. Just not mucking about it. Ryan just going to kick things off with that mega and is now just going to collect all the weapons in his arsenal. Finds them straight away, even though he takes that rail, he does do a little bit of tri-bulk damage in return. And Dramus is getting a little bit greedy here. I like it, just trying to do a little bit more here and trying to recover at the same time. But still, you're looking to try and push on forward, but at the same time, just prioritising the weapons in his arsenal, which makes perfect sense at this stage. Megas come up in the next few seconds. Dramus is not going to be able to approach this. Might be best to try and at least contest this heavy.
Now, although there's been a lot of gunshots, it has been a relatively slow game because they're still trying to be what they want to be without any major fights actually breaking out. Maybe that was going to change here, but it does still look like neither player interested in engaging a bit too heavily here. Still in the process of just getting some of the all-important weapons. And actually, with that rail being picked up by Scigib, means that both players have that unholy trinity ready to go. Opening rail is very good for Scigib. Dramus can back off towards... Well, there were a couple of lights there to soak up and bring himself back up to nice and healthy. Heavy makes things even better for him. The man needs to get himself some rockets. That's the only rocket he had left. Scigib now without armor. Gonna have to work kind of hard to figure out, right, gotta go pick up the ones that exist. Let's take that. Let's look for the next item.
Yeah, Scigib did a good job just reading Dramus, making sure to keep his distance while he's trying to recover, but not the best of spots, but he did his 76 with the last rocket. Oh no, Dramus was hoping that he could get the mega whilst engaging in that bout, but wasn't able to in the end. Oh, again, looking very good for Scigib. What a pixel rail there as he was going towards the LG room. Exactly what we wanted to see from Scigib. Good beginning, good start. We know that he had a bit of a, not a slow start, but it was very difficult for him to try and recover, but managed to in the end. But Dramus, though, with a comeback of his own here. Good rocket straight afterwards from Dramus. Very back and forth, a completely or an entirely different approach compared to that first map earlier on.
Now, Dramus is taking a rather significant amount of damage, though. Tries to make his presence known to deny the heavy, but I feel like a little bit greedy. Scigib knew. He saw that coming a mile away, and an absolutely lovely rail to turn it round. But Scigib continuing to show great respect. Knows that they're a bit fragile as a champion here. The inject does get popped. The LG 1v1 going to favour Scigib all day. Even before that mega, he was more healthy. So 4-1. Dramus really wants the heavy, but at what cost? You have to ask yourself, conceding another frag just to take the item away, do you consider it worth it? Because even as a light champion, it's not like you can make an immediate push. You yourself are very weak, and the person that just fragged you has more weapons.
Yeah, even if Dramus burned that heavy, I think he was hoping that Scigib was going to go for him straight afterwards, do the same thing twice on the trot, but he did. It's been a right bloodbath for this mega, hasn't it? Like every single time, both players have a very aggressive approach, no matter what angle they're coming from here. But Dramus is looking in a great spot to bring this comeback into fruition if he can. Scigib realises this, so again, just keeping his distance. Perfectly understandable here. Full grapples here for Dramus. Can use as he sees fit. But knows he's still there. Just trying to use that tribal just to make absolute certainty that he's there. Picks up the mega. Heavy's going to be up any second now. It's just a matter of how Scigib's going to approach this, but it looks like he's going to leave it entirely here. And to be fair, I think it's perfectly understandable. We didn't have to start to contend. And if he did, he'll be put in a bad spot and with the height as well. Oh, that was a lovely... I was talking about the verticality earlier. There's a great example of it. And again, another great rail to slowly catch things up. It's one looking for the second, but doesn't get the angle. That was so close to making that a full frag.
It's just an absolutely fantastic bit of optimization there. Now, if you're going to play Athena at this level, you're gonna know all of these rather interesting ways the grapple can be used. And hey, look, I can back up and take the heavy and we'll have time to steal the light. He knew he was there. Nice rail as well. And uh-oh. The momentum is starting to mount in the favor of Dramis. Scigib taking so much damage off the spawn almost every single time. Not a huge amount of pickups here without putting himself in harm's way. There's a reason he only picked up one. And Dramis is working very hard to bring this one back. We're not even halfway through yet, but Scigib, that armor is a bit of a blessing, I think. But he has to take a serious risk to fight for this heavy.
Does, but barely contested for. Oh my god, that drive-by rail just going to make matters worse. Scigib is now going to be questioning how long he can hold on to this lead and how long he can dilly-dally around and just try and skirt around and lap the map. But what a rocket as well. That was a direct Ryan of all things. And Dramis is just playing, in terms of his aim skill, just picture perfect. A drive-by again. Scigib just trying to make ends meet, but just can't do anything at this point. Don't get me wrong, Scigib has been... Okay, never mind. I was going to say being playing cat and mouse really well until that last engagement. But drive-bys, the direct rockets, the reads, the predictions Dramis is making. And Scigib, it's not like he's going around 300-400 speed. He's like literally darting around the map super quick to not really give Dramis much of an opening. But Dramis is just not affected by it at all. His aim skill has been near enough perfect. He should be able to clean this one up as well and take the lead for the first time in this matchup.
It's the difference in dynamic, unfortunately. Scigib was pretty confident all the way through the map, but now, even watching things through Dramis' point of view, there's been a rather distinct emphasis on, I just need to keep the hell away from this guy. You know, Scigib has not wanted to fight Dramis at all, but Dramis has just been simply forcing the issue, of which even more damage is done. All of this damage is Scigib trying to run away, right? And even that rail would have put Scigib in a horrible, horrible position. Now finally able to beat the item first, and he takes away the Mega, but without armor. This is still a fight that I think Dramis is happy to take, but he has to sort of pray to the shotgun gods to get a good spread. Doesn't get the rail. That would have been a kill shot for sure. Misses the second as well. That once more would have taken him out. Scigib survives with an extra bonus bit of damage, but ultimately I don't think it's going to amount to much, because at the end of the day, Dramis just wants that item and he'll take it. Scigib doesn't have any armor either. This opening rail again misses its mark. It's been a bit messy the last couple of frags, but Dramis continues to push forward and just have that last laugh. Now onto the jump pad. Not sure going on the jump pad was part of the plan. I do think the rocket might have knocked him onto that one, but just like that, we've seen the snowball effect of Awoken, and we're seeing it again. Defensive rail, but with the grappling hook, gave him one bonus rail before he inevitably bit the dust.
Very difficult here for Scigib. The pulling for Scigib. Oh, direct to rail. That was exactly what he required to come back in this matchup. And now the momentum swing here, Ryan, coming straight on forward. Oh my god, the drive straight afterwards. And Scigib's like, I don't care. You could do what you did to me, and I'll just do it vice versa. 10 times harder at this stage. And Mega coming up soon, but again, gets top mid control. Heavy's up in the next 5 seconds, though. But look at this. Again, your question. Oh, what a rail. Again, both of them just hitting so hard back and forth. And Scigib is really giving it right now. He wants his victory. He needs his victory. In all fairness, Dramis is still super weak, but knows that time isn't on his side. There's no way he's going to survive for 2 minutes, considering the stack Scigib has right now. But this matchup, very, very back and forth. And it's just great to see. We thought it could be a curtain call for Scigib, considering the morale boost that Dramis has. But Scigib is just all for it here. He's going to try and make it again, but will he about to take it down?
Oh, deleted.
So Dramis takes him down, gets to heavy, now back heavily in his favor.
Oh, it's just these kind of really cheeky plays. Scigib forced to retreat. 1 HP. All it took was one little dusting of the LG to finish him off. And with 1 minute and a half left to go, Dramis fully stacked. Oh, and these rails just continue to hit the mark as well. It's scary times for Scigib. If there was any map you're going to win, this one's looking to be the best chance so far. It's as close as it has been. Manages to get a frag there on Dramis just in time as the heavy goes into Scigib's possession as well. Mega's going to be the next choice. Dramis, I don't think he's going to risk it. I think he's going to keep a lot more confidence in his positioning, in his rail, and in his damage. Because this is exactly where things can close up here. I mean, Dramis, he sprung a couple of good traps on Scigib. Scigib out-stacking him considerably. If he wasn't Anarchy there, he would have died. Dramis accidentally blows himself up. And now it's even Stevens with 40 seconds left to go. At the rate of this, it could be a sudden death. But that rail from Scigib, absolutely the thinnest line of sight, and he found his way. Great start. Oh, that rocket hurts, though. God, someone hits good damage, Harry, and immediately it's returned in kind.
Oh, this is absolute madness. Scigib, I was hoping he would try and deny the weapons, especially LG in the rail, but Dramis is on that rail side, so Sandy's going to give that up also. 10 seconds left until we go into sudden death. But Scigib is the one with map control here. The problem is he's just giving it up and giving it straight to Dramis for top mid. Picks up the Mega anyway, so it's perfectly understandable why he made that choice. So you can see stacks almost equal. So it's just anyone's guess here, because Scigib has the tiniest of advantages in terms of that department. But with the inject, could work in his favour. Scigib now just hasn't got the info he needs as of yet. He does know he's in that rail area, just a matter of where. But I think he's just holding top mid just to play it safe rather than sorry.
They trade the rails. If either side wasn't returned, you'd think there'd be some kind of significant push, but with this being sudden death, they have to be so careful. Where do we go from here? The rail 1v1. Caught him retreating. Oh, that two-piece. Dramis has been able to take away all of the armor, but he's still hesitant to push forward. It was Scigib in a better defensive position, and even split between the two items. I mean, there's so much that could happen in this sudden death. Are we going to go for the same item? Are we going to look for one and disengage and take the other? Does it end here? Mega's been taken, and with that, Dramis takes the heavy. But with more armor on the side of Dramis, one would think that this is going to be his fight to take, especially if he gets some unreturned opening damage. The grapple hook's been so good, misses the rail. That would have been the end of the game. But he can't hit the shot, Harry. But where does Scigib go?
He's not even available now, but he has the inject just to give himself a little bit safe. Effects insurance he is now, so this is a time where he needs to be so careful. Mega's up. So is the heavy, but he knows he's down there, which means that he can... Oh, no! Dramis called him! Why? No!
I think he knew.
Yeah,
I think he knew that Dramis was going to be going towards heavy as well. I'm shocked he took that jump. I think the moment we saw his feet leave the ground, I wasn't even looking at that through Dramis' point of view. I don't think any of us were. We could just feel that Dramis was just by heavy. He's looking through the hole, and he's like, go on, mate. Go on, go and do it. And unfortunately, I think the slight nod of acceptance from Scigib probably says what we're all thinking. Oh man, why did I do that?
The one shot he was hoping for him to miss. It was a huge risk though, and players at this level sometimes will just prioritise the frag, or at least the chip, because he had the heavy. He knew he had the heavy because he obviously heard the audio cue from the jump. So he's like, well, clearly my opponent's just going to have or try and attempt a gentleman's agreement for the items, but Dramis is like, no, not at all. But respect to Scigib though, what a comeback. It's so difficult to compete with that kind of momentum swing and just create one himself. This direct to rail was what caused it and what created exactly what he needed in order for that morale boost to come back.
Man.
But this is it. This is the angle. He heard it coming and he was like,
waiting.
Lovely. Exactly. And you got to remember though, rail 58%. Look at the damage Dramis did as well against a light champion. And I think it was Scigib. Don't see it on the stats, but he picked up 33 lights. 33. That's unheard of.
Well, we're going into our third map now. Ruins of Sarnath, and actually a matchup you don't see every day. Galena for Dramis, and then the Slash for Scigib. So this is quite interesting to me. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Scigib can actually do with this one, as Dramis is going to be pretty comfortable. I mean, that was a nail-biter of a second map, but we've got to give credit to Dramis. He kept himself composed and ready for whatever happened, and did the right thing, right? He knows his opponent's up near rail. Just sit there and wait. You know, maybe I'll get lucky. You know, I think it was that lapse in judgment, perhaps one would consider a moment of luck because it's just so unlikely that someone would do it. But Dramis was ready for it. I mean, hey, he could have missed that shot. I don't think any of us would have missed it, but he could have missed it. You never know. And now we're opening up into our final map here, the light versus the medium. And if Dramis is continuing to have a rail of that caliber, lights on ruins are a risky pick.
Yeah, they certainly are. And Scigib's probably thinking to himself, why did I straight line that jump? Why didn't I just like curve around a little bit or make it a little bit more difficult for Dramis? But I think it's just because of the fact that he thought there's no way. I think he was just hoping that Dramis would go for the heavy, then take an angle. But he took the angle first, which is perfectly understandable. And it's just one of the things. These things happen, really. So very unfortunate for Scigib. Lost the first map by 3 frags, and this time by 1. We felt like it was going to be Scigib just due to the fact that halfway through the second map, there was no return damage. It was just him running away the entire time and just using that recovery process. But every time he tried to recover, he would get railed straight away, again and again and again. And Jamis just hitting these ridiculous shots. And this is why Jamis was able to take down, you know, the 3 staples of this league in terms of Rafa, Wenger, and Razy, just because of shots and positioning such as that. So again, currently Jamis up 2-0, looking to make it a third, but let's see if Scigib can claw one back here in this matchup, as we're going to go straight into Ruins here, Ryan, and we'll have to see how his Slash is going to do against the Galena from Jamis.
We start off this match. Oh, wow. Pushing in for the gauntlet. I mean, oh, what are you doing? Ow! That was a very, very weird beginning. However, I mean, look, you got a starting machine gun and here's a slash point blank. The gauntlet's going to give you the highest damage, right? So, hey, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. But hopefully that doesn't happen again. Anyway, the LG with the rail. It's somewhat enough for Dramas to make something happen here, because I mean this is a distinct lack of stack, any kind of survivability. The rocket is the first choice, something that Dramas completely flies on by and puts himself in position to take this mega too. Now Scigib's gonna have to be kind of careful here. Yeah, you got 1 frag in the lead, but this map's only just begun. Oh, that second rail didn't even need it, but Dramas playing it safe. And that's now going to be 1-1, just like that. It is the squishy nature of Slash, combined with Dramas, that when he's on, his rail is fantastic. It has me a little bit nervous. But where do we go from here? Dramas, nicely stacked, has timing of both items here. Managing the cooldown too, which is going to be less plasma trail, and that's going to be less options for Slash to escape in a pinch. The LG. We can just see how much damage Dramas took before he even started fighting back, and he still traded that one out. I mean, it's Galena versus Slash. There's something that Scigib might struggle with here. However, lovely position for the LG. He knows what an awkward place to place rockets, and my LG's just going to laugh at you.
Literally 200 something damage with LG in less than 5 seconds. He's trying to get away, and lucky for him, the trail keep him alive. Oh, that was a bit too close to comfort, but it doesn't matter. Mega's up any second now. He's just lucky that Dramas isn't putting on a huge amount of pressure here. He does pack away, just trying to build up the armor stack once again. But it's looking much better now. Scigib looking to try and take this third map if he can, to give him a bit of leeway. This Heavy's been up for a little bit of time so far. He's just keeping the totems in check. There's still 2 more down there. And you can see that Jamis basically playing the same game as what Wenger did, just abusing that courtyard and heavy jump pad in terms of the hourglasses, and just dropping down in a heavy, because that's what he's going to prioritize first. Oh no, his backwards turn straight after this, but he picks up the mega anyway. But you got to remember, it takes 70 for that. Does have to trail if he needs to.
It's no wonder that Scigib is going to put as much emphasis on these totems as he is, because you're already dealing with a medium versus light matchup, and at the same time you're fighting a champion who, when overstacked, can just give themselves essentially a mega whenever they want. That is a fight that you can hit every shot in the world, and it's still going to be difficult to do so. Now Scigib has been playing a really tricky game of cat and mouse so far. Dramas' rockets have not been able to get as much damage as you normally used to. However, very weak. Scigib's in big trouble. 7 HP. Dramas using that chance to disengage and take the mega, but in doing so gives up a railable position. Scigib hits the damage to begin. Is he going to sit pretty here and wait for the light? Yeah, it sounds like it's just appeared, and appear it will. But in doing so, Dramas probably heard it, so Dramas, alright, he's prioritizing the mega. But this is something that we'll grow to expect. Scigib's been trying so hard to cut him off, but he plays a scary game in doing so. 15 HP this time, but this time, no escape for you, my friend. 3-3, and spawning with no armor, the classic light. He's already picked up a light down near where Super Shotgun is, so he knows he can't pick that one up, and Dramas probably knows too.
Sure, Scigib got flashbacks from when he got railed at the very end of that last map. Happened again as he's trying to go back.
Don't bring up Harry. Bad memories.
I know, mate, I have to. I'm a horrible human a horrible human being. And look at this, though, as well. Dramas has got that Oh, got the overstack here, and he's still got a totem in his back pocket. So this is not looking too good at the moment in terms of stack advantage for Scigib. But look at the LG, misses the rail, but should surely be able to try and clean this up. But the trail did so much damage as he's getting a little bit too aggressive, trying to challenge that and trying to at least clean that up. But oh, will he be able to stop him? He does, and gets to heavy. That's going to be huge for Dramus to get another frag back to back.
Beautiful weapon choice for Dramus as well, and no escape for you, Scigib. You've just spawned. And again, this is the nature of the light champions. They are so vulnerable. But I was going to say beautiful weapon choice there from Dramus. That OG, you're going to be full speed ahead of Slash. You're probably going to be in the air just a little bit. And let me shut that down. Stop me from picking up the item, kill you. I'll take it for myself. However, another opening. The trap has been sprung by Dramus, but he's quite weak. Doesn't matter too much, though, because that heavy is going to be happily taken. Scigib can't afford to challenge it. It's too risky to challenge it.
And he is. And Scigib, he hasn't actually got any rockets as of yet, so he's looking to try and pick those up at some stage. Especially wants for that defensive purposes to keep Dramus away from his position. Now Dramus is biding his time once again. He knows that in terms of his agility, in terms of his movement, he hasn't got the advantages. So of course Scigib can catch up as he sees fit. Burns the heavy at least. Again, the rail making matters worse. Now increasing this lead. Scigib trying to claw back from a 3 frag deficit and has the overstack once again.
Another scary position, however. Only becomes significantly scarier when the armor is in play, but that's something that Dramus has had a rather considerable lock-on. 8 armors to 3 so far for Scigib. About to be 4, though, as that rail does push Dramus away. It does force him to retreat. But we're starting to open the other element, right? These defensive plays. I don't really assume Dramus is going to play much of a runaway game. You can't run away from Slash if you have no mobility. However, you can start to play heavy positions. You know, those opening rails, opening rockets. Rockets haven't really been Dramus' best friend on this map so far. In part, that can just be the really good defensive positions from Scigib. Makes the rockets a lot harder to land consistently, but we have more of these totems situated. And that's where I get a bit worried, because if Dramus even gets 1 extra frag, the amount of work Scigib's going to have to do to break into this brick wall that Dramus has put forward is going to become a lot harder.
I like what Dramus was doing as well. He's trying to play tower defense with the courtyard area as well. Just trying to bait him to try and approach him so that if he does, he's got those 2 totems for the overstack again straight afterwards. But too little too late. But Scigib kind of really needs to push this and take a risk just in order to try and bring this back before the heavy comes, but it doesn't work in his favor once again. Clears up these hourglasses, and this is what I mean by the tower defense. He's got these totems up. He can just recover whenever he likes, and if they've not been used and he's at a full stack, then of course he can just linger around whenever with the extra 100 HP, and he's actually going to put another one down, falls into one of the totems, and Scigib's probably thinking, okay, you've got a nice little nest there. I'll have to try and approach that later on, but the problem is the fact that Dramus is collecting so many hourglasses, but he's just recovering as he sees fit as many times as he likes. It's just becoming extremely tough for Scigib to claw back, and it's going to be even harder now, especially with that 5 frag deficit. So, yeah, just need to be a little bit aware of his totems, take him out around the courtyard, but at this point it's probably too late. 2 minutes left, and Dramus is looking extremely good so far on map number 3.
Scigib's in a difficult position, right? Even very recently it was, do I even go out of my way to try and take out these totems because I have such little time? I need to get these frags. And even, let's say, every sweep of the courtyard, for example, I overextend by a few extra seconds to look for totems or whatever. That's time that you're going to lose later. Time that you could have spent trying to get fragged. But at the same time, oh, well, I'll leave the totems up. He's going to do what he did a couple of frags ago, which was, I've got 2 totems that you haven't destroyed. I'm going to wait for the fight, and I'm just going to drop it down and make you have to deal with basically final boss damage. So this has been a well-played matchup for Dramus, but must be said, I looked at this on paper. The frags going the way they have, this was what I think a lot of us might have been worried about. I think there's a reason that Awoken would have given Scigib arguably his best chance to get the single map win here. The map picks were in Dramus' favor from the very beginning, especially this one, because of how he's executed it and just made Galena this untouchable machine versus the very squishy Slash. That second map was the one that was the one he needed, did Scigib.
And Scigib knew there was obviously a couple of totems he's missed out on in terms of that overstack. He just didn't know where they were. I mean, at the 8-minute mark, When Scigib found those 2 totems at Courtyard, he was like, damn, here they are. There was absolutely nothing he could have done from there onwards. But 40 seconds afterwards, and still going to try and clean up another once again, but he does not. His Jamis does finish things up once again. Just looking to try and recover, but we've already said it. Too little, too late. It's going to be a 3-0. The Jamis here just finish things up. Trying to go for the gauntlet, but not going to happen.
Not much left to reflect on here, other than just a congratulations. And with 10 seconds left to go, it's just where we are now, isn't it? Scigib did a valiant effort, I would say. But with that final match, I just don't think anything in particular was working in his favour before that map even begun. And then Dramas played as well as he needed to. He played the matchup perfectly. He knew what he needed to do. And man just did it, didn't he? That's my high-level analysis of that one. You looked at it on paper and you just know that there's going to be that insurmountable stack difference that you're going to have to fight. Scigib kind of did what he could, but when those fights broke out, there's only so much you can do, man. I mean, even if you hit every single shot, Dramas was playing the totem game so well, on top of just a good old game of Quake, it was going to be hard, you know, so hard that who really would have been able to deal with it, you know? I guess maybe there's a reason you don't see that matchup that much.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense as well, and it's just a shame that Scigib just didn't clear out the Courtyard any sooner. If he did, it could have swayed a little bit differently in terms of the scenario and circumstance he put himself in, but Jamis just played it outright, you know, just collecting all the hourglass on the heavy jump pad in the Courtyard for free, might I add, and keeping that heavy in check as well. Just made sure to contest it each and every single time. There was a couple of risks that Scigib could have took in order to bring himself at least some kind of leeway or comeback in order to take map number 3, but every time it was just Dramas with the rail, and it was just a real pain in the backside. And it was actually Scigib who actually did more rail damage this time round and was able to do 50%, so not too shabby. But yeah, it was a night and day difference compared to the first 2 maps, but from Scigib, I liked what I saw the first 2 maps, especially the comeback we saw in Awoken. That was just incredible. It's very hard to punish someone when someone's like riding the high on the momentum. But Jamis with 3-0, what we predicted, what we expected 1 or 2 maps to be quite a close affair indeed. But, you know, until then, Scigib's still looking for that first W.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of look at that final map and you'd think that realistically you just needed to try and prevent that setup, something that's often easier said than done at this level of play. But the second that gets locked in, then it almost feels like with that kind of circumstance, it can be like a win condition, you know. We definitely saw elements of that in the final map. But Dramis will no doubt be feeling very good about that. Following him on social media, you know, posting a lot about this upcoming game of saying, this is a big one for me, you know, this is a good opportunity for me to just get that final burst of success as we open up towards the finals. So very well done between Dramis there, and no doubt he's going to be feeling very happy about how things just went down. But believe it or not, folks, that's half of this evening's action done already. We're going to be opening up now for our 3rd series of the day, our first featured matchup of the day, which means that we're bringing back in the one and only DJ Wheat. We'll see you in about 5 minutes time. Thanks for joining us so far. We'll be right back. Well, would you believe it? We're back for our latest edition here of the Quake Pro League. My name's Ketchup, joined by Lethal. But if you've seen the featured matchups on the show before, you know it isn't just us. It's time to reel on in the DJ Wheat. Whoosh.
Wow.
There it is.
Wow.
And there he is.
Never had an intro like that, Ketchup. Well done. Well done. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, gentlemen, wherever you may be. Excited for, week, what are we on, 16 now? I mean, we are getting down to the nitty gritty here, but amazing to think that we come this far, and we're so close to the championship.
I know. And I feel like we're all in for a treat, really, aren't we? Players able to experience being together again, playing in that LAN environment, us being able to call some of the absolute greatest Quake in the world, and I think the biggest winners, the fans. Everyone able to just tune into something that we've been wanting to see for a long time, and really in not many weeks at all. It's all going to come full circle, so that's what we like to see. Our first featured matchup of the day, Maxter versus Razy. Harry, we'll start with you. Weigh this one up for us.
Well, for Maxter, it's going to be interesting, isn't it? Because let's be honest, Razy's just been, he's in dismantling everyone, isn't he? And he's been on top form, especially of late. And for Maxter, he's one of those dark horses again, kind of like in the same department as CNZ and Dramus, where you don't know what he's going to bring and what he's going to be able to do. But, you know, Maxter should be able to put up a pretty damn good fight considering the circumstances. It just depends on the picks and the bans, which of course we'll go through in a second. And I feel like for Maxter now, in terms of recent performance, he's been doing extremely well. For example, in the last couple of weeks he's been playing, he took a map off Rafa and had a very close series against Kilson. Don't get me wrong, that was a 3-0 to Kilson, we know. But in terms of frag count to the deficit, it was very, very small, and it could have definitely gone either way. But just going through the picks and bans now, it's going to be quite interesting because Maxter's best map statistically so far has been Ruins, Blood Covenant, and Awoken. And the fact that we've actually got 2 of the 3 is going to do a huge margin. It's going to be very helpful for Maxter by a lot of means. But in terms of champion picks at the very beginning, a slash on Deep Embrace. Interesting there from Razy.
I have a theory about that. Now, maybe I'm out of touch, and slash is somewhat of a more common than I expected thing on Deep Embrace. I don't think it is, but by all means, correct me if I'm wrong. But those that watch Razy know that Razy likes to add a little bit of spice to his streams. And sometimes that will be making an account for one champion only. So he did that with Clutch only Maestro Razy, never forget, getting to elite rank with literally just Clutch. He's kind of doing the same thing with Slash right now, if I'm not mistaken, which does kind of lead me to believe that in doing this, there might have been a couple of maps that he's found where he's like, hang on a minute, you know, Slash works kind of well on this map. So maybe Deep Embrace is one of those. But Marcus, what do you think?
I mean, I think I think you nailed it. I mean, Chad is saying, you know, wait until you see Razy slash on Deep. It's scary. And I know I'm excited for it. And it's probably exactly right? Maybe unorthodox pick, but you're messing around. You're in the lab, right? As Razy often is. And he comes out and he's like, wow, this is actually something that really fits my play style. So let's go for it. I like it. I'm excited to see it. You know, you mentioned Maxter's best map being Ruins. He almost went to overtime with Kilson last week in one of the last featured matches. So I completely agree with everything Lethal said. Like on paper and in the books, this should be a pretty straightforward like 3-0, but I think Maxter has shown this entire season that it's like, hey, I'm creeping, and it might not be now, but it's going to be soon, and I'm going to start taking folks to task. So is it possible today is the day that happens? Maybe, but Maxter's definitely looking in great form heading into the championship. On the flip side, you know, Razy needs to be, right? He's sitting at I believe, number 5 right now. Reasonably okay spot to be going into the championships, but I know that Razy would like to be a little bit higher up that poll, so we'll have to see how it works out. Everything else I think is pretty, you know, straightforward, kind of interesting picks on Blood Covenant, but makes a lot of sense for what we're seeing out of these two. I'm definitely most excited for map 1.
Yeah, I'm just want to add as well is the fact that not only are we going to see a slash coming out from Razy on Deep Embrace, as Ketchup has already mentioned, the fact that he's been grinding with the slash on every single map in ranked, it's the fact that Maxter, the last time he played Blood Covenant, he beat Rafa 10-0. So this is where I'm questioning how Raze's going to perform against Maxter. Maybe Maxter is having his day. I don't know. Obviously, I don't think it's going to be a 10-0, but the fact that Maxter's got Blood Covenant on the cards, it's pretty damn lucky considering most people would have banned it due to the performance he showed against Rafa a couple of weeks ago. So you never know. It could be a closer.
However, I will mention that we know that Raze's a confident man. And there's always a chance that Raze will just be fearless of it and go, yeah, well, that's what you did, but
yeah,
it won't happen to me. And for that reason, let's do it. So on this note, both of our players are getting ready to go. So I don't imagine it'll be too much longer until we jump into map 1. Of which, Harry, we've got to say, sorry, mate. We'll see you in a bit. You're going to do the next one. Because now,
that's all right.
it's myself and DJ Wheat. See you later, Harry. We'll bring you in after these maps.
Nice one. See you in a
Welcome
bit.
back for then. Anyway, right. I think I definitely echo what you said, though. Map 1 is what I'm the most excited to see. And I kind of feel like that's what everyone's excited to see. And the reason, personally, for that is that we've been watching Quake Champions for, let me get my maths right, 5 years now, 2017? Yeah. The years just fly by. The last three.
Yeah.
Feel like I'm not alone there. But Quake Champions has been played for a long time, to say the least. And Raze's always been that kind of player that kind of does what he wants, whether it just comes down to map playstyle, whether it comes down to champion picks that other people just really wouldn't be thinking about. And it warms my heart to see that we're here in like late 2022, and here we are with Raze still finding these kind of unorthodox picks, and there's already people in chat saying, yo, keep an eye out for this because it's devastating. So
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
You know, Catcher, I think like sometimes players, especially in a game like Quake where there's so much legacy, they tend to just go along with what the meta might be. But I think like, while that's a great strategy for just getting better, you need to know that. The even better strategy is like, why don't I play what really works for me? And I think Raze as a player, he knows how to do that. You know, someone might say like, that's crazy. Why would you do that? No one would ever do that. But you know what? If Raze, if it matches how Raze plays, then absolutely he should do that. So I also appreciate that. I think it's great to see that type of change. We are loading up into Deep Embrace, so we're not going to have to wait too much longer for this. And I mean, you got to expect some speed given these 2 champ picks right here, but I am excited to see what I would consider a somewhat unorthodox pick here.
Hey man, innovators tend to walk into the most questions of people saying, why are you doing that? Part of being an innovator is a chance to say, hey mate, watch this, and you'll know why. Let's begin things here, checking things out from Maxter's point of view. I personally will be looking at things through Raze's point of view, because I just want to see what his start is looking like. Got himself access to a rocket and a rail already. And let's really see what all the fuss is about, mate.
Yeah, so far, I mean, the spawns kind of let it be a bit quieter on the start here, but I'm sure we'll have some explosive action starting up very, very soon. Raze's playing this one quiet, right? There he finally gives away his location, and Maxter on the attack very quickly, using that grapple to get back to position, and some good LG work catch up for the first frag going to Maxter.
And in doing so, pushed Raze up into the corner where there was no escape even if he wanted to. Now 1 frag in the lead so far as Raze takes even more damage. There's no armor to collect either. This is a scary beginnings here. However, next item in play will be that heavy, but no doubt, I mean, this is Athena we're talking about. Maxter's going to be there first. You know he is. Oh, nice shot. Whoop! And that rocket. I cannot tell you how close that rocket was to hitting Raze right in the face.
You know, I always love to Maxter when his rail is on. Boy, does he put on a show, and it looks like he wants to do that. In the first minute, we've seen him land a couple of real nice rails. In fact, he's 100% right now, having thrown 3 out. All 3 of them pixel rails that he just nailed. But Raze, as definitely someone who is a seasoned veteran here, is handling it well so far. Now trying to battle here for this heavy. He is going to have to get out of there. Actually doubles back after the trail. Another great rail coming out from Maxter, trying to land another one. Raze's going to go on the attack this time. LG's doing a lot of damage. Can't quite finish him off, though, as he does just barely misses that rail, and Raze almost got on the board.
And that one was almost the exact same situation, Wheat. Got to give shout-outs to that clutch grappling hook at the first time. Nice frag. Able to just save himself from that rail when he was really frames away from getting taken out for free, but instead able to stabilize and then some, making it currently 2-0. Able to secure himself a heavy at the same time. Now Razy hasn't really been able to be as assertive as he would normally want to, and I think in no small part that has come down to the surgical rail that Max has been hitting. Wait a minute, Razy on the back foot would have been dead had Maxter not ran out of ammo there for the LG.
Yeah, real impressive so far here from Maxter. Not only able to get that first frag, but then to keep the pressure on. And so far, Razy just hasn't really been able to have a moment to breathe, right? He's like running these insane sprints, and then at a moment he would like to just stop for a moment. Maxter is right there. Another great rail, shooting now 15 shots. 8 of those have been hit. And Razy once again finds himself in the danger zone, almost gets nailed with that one catch up, but manages to sneak away. And you're really, especially with 2 champions like this, you're really seeing how small this map actually is. And there it is, frag number 4, unanswered here from Maxter.
One would think that there's still time, though. And I know that's obviously speaking the obvious that we have just short of 7 minutes left, but I'm just looking at the fact that it's 2 lights, and I'm looking at how easily the 2 of these champions can cycle the map. You know, yes, it's 4-0 now, but I can't help but feel that there's a reality that Razy stabilizes with 1 clean frag, and that's where Slash really comes alive. So I guess we'll keep a keen eye on it so far. That's why Razy isn't letting up at the moment. Maxter's damage has been absolutely phenomenal, as have his rails so far, as he secures another one. Enough not to get a frag, sure, but enough to force away from the heavy so he can take it for himself. There's another one. That plasma trail, what plasma trail, mate? However, it has denied the chase.
I mean, so impressive. Another jump into the main room, down to 20 points of health, and Razy just cannot find an opportunity that is working for him. And you're right? We're 4 minutes in, but what Razy's looking for is that one frag that he can then explode. And Maxter's, his pressure just seems to be too much here for Razy. So, so far, chat, I appreciate all your opinions on Razy's Slash here, but we haven't quite seen it go online yet. He needs that first frag in order to try to bring it around in his favor. Great rail coming out from Razy there on Maxter's, and picks up that mega. Can he keep the pressure on? He's trying to. Oh, that was close. That grapple, I think, saving him and almost killing him. Now Maxter down to 40 points of health. This is the opportunity. The chase is on, but the defensive rockets are too good. Razy finally pulling out his rail to finish the job. And now let's see what Razy does.
This is what I've had in the back of my mind all map long. What happens when Razy's the one that's controlling the situation? Now Maxter gets the spawn near rail, which is pretty much best case scenario. However, a return vertical rail, delicious stuff. And Max's defensive shots have been just what he needs to keep himself in it. Still railable. That would have been a kill shot by far. Razy doesn't quite manage to land it, but likely going to be kind of aggressive now that heavy's in play. Happily picked up, and with this mega next. If Razy's able to get a frag here, he'll get the frag, he'll take the mega, and it'll just continue to layer on the pain. But Maxter being nice and slippery. Look at this.
He's trying on the low end. He does get hit with some LG, and it is kind of interesting because in order to fully utilize speed, your opponent's going to know where you are. So, as we're seeing Razy wiggle around the corner here, LG out. Heavy is picked up, looking for a close range rail. Cannot land it. Maxter, though, very, very low. Needs to be careful here. So Razy's going to back off, try to get a little bit more of his stack and rearm with some LG cells. Now, another great rail by Razy, but Maxter lands one as well. And now, as you mentioned, the lights go through this map and gobble everything up so quickly. There's not much left, and that means this rail battle will determine the next frag, and it goes to Maxter 6-1 with about 3.5 minutes left to go.
Maxter just has this ability to land the most monumental rails, right? He's already got fantastic accuracy, sure, but whenever there's a rail that needs to be landed, he's going to be the one to hit that mark. And most prominently on the defense, right? He knows that someone's going to try and lay the pressure on, be aggressive, but all it would take is one rail to stop that push, to make you safer, even for a split second. Maxter has this ability to just land that every single time. And it's been a huge pain in the ass for Razy, because every time Razy decides, right, I'm going to make something happen now, he eats a rail at the same time, which makes you have to second guess it. Like, kind of like that. If he eats another rail here, look, I mean, the rocket.
Wow. Very nice rocket. And yeah, you're right. I mean, there's been no clean frags coming out here, so there's not much conversion potential on Razy's side of the table. Now, he's only needs 4 frags. Is that possible here on Deep Embrace? 100%. Here we go with the trail, getting some speed, tries to chase after his opponent a little bit, has been stealing away these lights as best as he can. Just doing a little bit of damage there with the rockets in order to grab that. And now this is his moment right here. A little bit better stack. He has the health advantage, has the armor advantage, but the chase is real. Even Slash cannot seem to catch up to Maxter.
And you know you're doing your job right in that situation, but the opening rocket has other plans. Now, 2 minutes for 3 frags on this map with 2 lights. Yeah, mate, it's exactly as you said. So I feel like we're just not going to say it's over until it's over. Tries to escape, but no escape to be had. And in the closing 2 minutes, Wheat, is this where we start to see the strength of Slash shine through when the chips are down?
Oh my God, it hurts to see. You know, I think there's your answer. Unfortunately, that's a hard amount of momentum to just gain back. Imagine you're going 100 miles an hour and you just hit a wall. It's going to take you a while before you get back to 100, and that is where Razy finds himself right now. Maxter will have no idea just how close he was, I think, to potentially seeing a tie game here, but that was a huge misstep there. Maxter with another frag, and that might end it right there, catch up.
You know, I was actually looking at things through Max's point of view at that point. So when you went, oh, I'm like, what's going on? Look on my other feed and Razy's just in the pit.
Yeah.
That is so heartbreaking because, I mean, it's no exaggeration to say that that's more than likely cost Razy the map unless he can pull off a whole bunch of frags in 45 seconds for 3. I mean, if he finds him every time, maybe, but Max is not going to let that happen.
Yeah, I mean, even with respawn timer, this is going to be pretty tough. He'd need every second that is there. Nice direct rocket, but again, he needs to get this one in the next 2 seconds, and I don't know that it's going to happen. There it is. All right.
He's so weak, though, Marcus.
Spawn. Wow.
He is so weak. That's going to be a scary game to play. Razy knows he can't be patient anymore. He has to push. He has to push and then somehow find another.
Yeah.
But there's just no way. Oh, no! What a way to lose the map. We were just about to see what the fuss was about.
Yeah.
If that doesn't prove that that kind of mistake happens to everyone, I don't know what does.
I don't know exactly what happened. So here's a breakdown. I'm sure we're going to see it again, but
sure, we got a replay.
It looked like Razy activated his trail right before. Whether that gave him just a little bit of momentum to where he mistimed it or misjudged that jump, I don't know. But
I'm gonna look at these replays.
Really convinced that you know, Razy could have potentially tied it up given the momentum that he had right there. He had a better stack. He was about to grab that mega. He had his opponent on the back foot. The other thing too is that I gotta be, you know, I gotta throw something out here, catch up. I have been somewhat critical of Maxter's Athena the past few weeks. It's not necessarily been amazing. It hasn't been terrible, but I've always felt like, oh, there it was. Yeah, just by, I don't know. Maybe a little bit too soon, but Maxter's Athena looked phenomenal on that map. And I think like that was Maxter's skill combined with really getting a download on that champ. And right, he made Razy, I feel like, regret that pick a little bit. That did not go Razy's way, but what a way for Maxter to kick off this series.
Yeah, I truthfully just don't think we had an opportunity to see why that pick was used. I guess, look, I think maybe there would be some people out there right now thinking, well, you know, that just proves that it doesn't work. It's only one map, right? For it to get picked in this level of play, there must have been some reasoning behind it. And I think there was a brief, maybe not even a couple of minutes, where we started to see it unfold. It just came down to Maxter playing phenomenally well, hitting, well, every defensive shot he needed to, essentially. And then, of course, the critical error falling off the map just in front of the Mega. That was the beginning of the comeback. You know, it's no need to dive into it too much. We all saw it. We all knew the consequences, so we're not going to get hung up on it. But if there's one thing Razy has always been able to do, it is to completely disregard every map that happened before and just focus on it one at a time. And as we now go into Blood Covenant, which is a drastically different map with drastically different champions, I don't imagine Razy's going to even be slightly thinking of that last map right as we jump into Blood Covenant, right? The job's not finished. We've got 2 more maps left to go. I know what I can do. We're just going to go and focus on the next 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I would have, I'm in Razy's shoe, and you're right. The mentality that you just mentioned, that's the mentality that Razy needs to have. I think Razy being on the receiving end, I mean, we saw Maxter's accuracy in that last game, and that's really what let him play so well on this map versus Kilson just a week ago. Maxter looks to be on fire. I think this will be a different type of map, but Maxter or Razy needs to respect like Maxter's rail and his accuracy overall, because it is looking monstrous this morning.
We got a lot of information from the last 10 minutes that we saw, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But what it would mean, if this map's able to go into the hands of Maxter, a player that we've always known has just been very, very high level, isn't quite necessarily in that sort of Kilson level or the Rafa level just yet. However, so close to it that any amount of good results you can get in these closing weeks, the World Finals are only a few weeks away, really. How well is Maxter going to play there if he's able to prove some insane results now? I mean, certainly no underdog, but someone that could do very, very well if he keeps playing like this.
Yeah, he's a player that I'm 100% going to be keeping an eye on at LAN. We all know that he's disciplined. He has the best posture in gaming. But putting all this together and showing us what he is made of here against some of the toughest opponents the last few weeks in QPL is exactly what we want to see heading into the championship. So we have begun now on Blood Covenant. Razy on the Visor, his opponent going to be on the Galena, so totem management is going to be important here for Razy, but both players definitely slowed it down, which is something we see a bit on Blood Covenant usually anyway. So not too surprised to see the difference between these two. Just taking a look, everyone's got kind of the full arsenal of weapons that they want, so it's just going to come down to that first battle.
It's always kind of scary fighting a Visor. I know there's a couple of giveaways that might suggest that Piercing Sight has been used, but, if it's been a while since its shot would have made sense and we haven't seen each other for a fair while, then does he know where I am? Yep, there we go now. But I don't even know if that necessarily suggests that he used Piercing Sight there. I mean, that's a rather common rail angle to get hit by, so maybe the uncertainty will give Razy some kind of advantage. I guess it remains to be seen as we trade these items one apiece so far. Opening rail again. Razy hitting them back to back at this point, and now he just needs to get a good read on the opponent's escape. Oh. Surprises Maxter completely, and Maxter can't rocket jump out of there.
That was just a phenomenal read from Razy. He chose the right path, and the adventure definitely went his way, getting that first frag on the board. Yeah, Maxter, surprised, tried to rocket jump out of there, but unfortunately it didn't really work out for him. So Razy on the board with the first one, and looking very surgical, right? Seems to be prioritizing the upper levels a bit, looking for those vertical rail shots, and now he might be able to scoop up both of the major items here, and that is going to make a very big monster traversing this map here catch up. 2 minutes in, but Razy with that one frag, he looks like a completely different player compared to last game.
It's kind of what we were talking about before. Razy's the kind of player that can disregard anything that happened, and this next map's good to go. That's where 101% of my focus will go into. And it's a rather champion-like mentality, something that you can't teach it, right? Just experience alone will show you how to get used to it. And now Razy choosing to go for the machine gun instead, but actually not amazing accuracy from either side. It's no wonder we really disengaged there, as the items will be up soon. Mega, the next one of which, Razy in a better position. And he's just going to take this extra time, get himself some ammo, some hourglasses, some armor, and now we can set up for whatever might happen next. That's 2 lights shut down already.
Razy's kind of light armor management's been pretty great as well. He's been taking away most of those, and there he pops. Piercing sight doesn't seem to be able to get a frag, but does do some pretty significant damage, and that will kind of force Maxter into probably unusual or rotation where he's searching for anything at this point, scraps, because Razy has just taken everything away, and you can tell finally Maxter picks up a light and is desperately looking for even more stack, because Razy has always been breathing down his neck with so much more. He is a beefy boy here on Blood Covenant, and now still looking for Maxter. What is Maxter going to do to combat this?
Well, that piercing sight alone means that there's no way Maxter can fight for that one. And it's no doubt Maxter heard him talking too, so that was a free pickup if I've ever seen one. But again, answering back with the machine gun first. I think just trying to enforce the threat and force you away from the item doesn't necessarily want the fight, really. I just want you not to be anywhere near it. Now, Mega in hand. Maxter forced to retreat. The drop down, though, can't quite land the rail. That would have been critical to connect with. However, it doesn't feel like it's been a one-frag game. I mean, there's been a fair amount of combat taking place, but nothing to secure. Both players happy to disengage. I think Maxter knows that if I can play my cards right, all I have to do is get 1 frag to even the odds. And Razy knows, hey, I mean, if I can keep a 1-frag lead this whole time and get 1 extra down the line, works better for me too.
Yeah, the other thing that is so fascinating about Maxter's play right now is he just a defensive god in this map? He just is, every time Razy has wanted to bump up the aggression a little
like
bit,
that.
it's a rail, it's a rocket just perfectly placed. And unfortunately, I think your brain says, go for it, go for it, go for it. Or maybe your heart does, but your brain says, I don't know, like Maxter's hitting some pretty decent defensive shots. Are you sure you want to do that? And probably the reason why we only have 1 frag for Razy, despite the fact that he's been so very much in control of this entire map.
But he's not been in control enough to decide when it's time to go in for the kill. And I guess that can sometimes be the most important time to shut down. And Maxter, he has been able to keep himself healthy and surviving, even though the majority of the control has been on Razy's side. Might change now, though, as that opening damage is fantastic, removes all of the armor, but Razy's defensive plays. Back-to-back rail. Kind of doing what Maxter did to him, but yeah. I loved Razy's choice there. Maxter was not ready for him to be down near jump pad at all.
That was very nicely done, and of course, you compliment one on a skill, and then the other's like, oh yeah, watch my defensive shots.
And I took that personally.
Yeah, Razy back in this one too, having regained that stack. But Maxter, like, slowly trying to claw his way in there, right? Getting that heavy.
Oh my lord!
Big LG damage coming out the rockets, responding back, but Razy just catching Maxter once again by surprise, and really doing that initial damage with the LG, resulting in that 2nd frag. And now Maxter's got to be feeling a little nervous, especially with those 2 back-to-back rockets. Now trying to get another one. Can't fish it off. Maxter incredibly low, almost resulted in frag number 3.
I tell you what, though, the reason that frag took me by surprise so much, and probably Maxter too, is you're down near where Heavy is. You hear the jump pad go. When's the last time you heard someone use the jump pad and that's the door they go through? It's no wonder Maxter wasn't looking that way. Who does that?
Yeah, I mean, I think both players kind of trying to rewrite how they should play this game here a little bit. Razy just looking to hold on to this 2 frag leads. It's one thing I love about Quake is that you don't need to win by 10, you just need to win by 1. And Razy knows that. He continues to sort of assert his dominance just from a control perspective. But as that clock ticks away, I think he can start to get a little bit more sneaky, a little bit more snaky about what he decides to do. He set up some really great traps against Maxter here in this match already, but he's looking to try to close this one out with a flawless victory. Still on this rail bridge now, firing away. LG from Maxter comes out, but answered back by Razy. Maxter from the bottom manages to pull it off, though, and everything that I just said out the window. This is totally winnable on either side.
You could see it in Razy's face. The moment that last little burst of LG just completely failed to hit its mark, there was a, oh, come on! And then fresh into respawn. Frustrating way to go, but you know what? Razy does have Maxter kind of weak, even though there's only a rail in hand. Oh, hang on a minute. That's one way to start. Maxter knows that Razy ain't going to have much equipment. I think, does he fear just the rail by itself? I guess time will tell. Now, just shy of 1.5 minutes left to go on this map. Razy, just to remind everyone, Maxter is currently one map up here. If Razy falls short and goes 2-0, he is going to be, no doubt, incredibly disappointed. He wants to prevent that.
He really does. Maxter falling down there from the middle to that lower light. Great rail from Razy on the top. Maxter still trying to push the advantage from the bottom, and the time is ticking away. Catch up, 1 minute and 10 seconds, just under, left to go. Great rail from Maxter yet again. He's not in the clear yet, though. Grabs a light. We will have heavy picked up by Razy. And how is he going to push this? This is going to be super tough. There's going to be a piercing sight up for Razy here in just a moment. And what can Maxter do?
I like that Razy popped it immediately. If he plays his cards right and manages those hourglasses, there is a chance he might be able to get himself one more. And when the chips are down and Maxter has to push in and be aggressive, that is where that last minute piercing sight will make it almost impossible for Maxter to win. Razy's going to have that upper hand all the way through. Chooses to actually go in towards this heavy. And Maxter nowhere near it. I mean...
Oh, that, unfortunately, I think that rocket jump was kind of all of the wind going out of his sails right there. That allowed Razy to get into position. He heard it, he reacted, and Razy takes the game by 1-2 to tie the series up. And that was unfortunate. You know, that was basically Max. I had not to say that Maxter was guaranteed to win if he would have hit that rocket jump, but I think, you know, with the time that was left, that was the opportunity he needed. Not quite falling into the pit like Deep Embrace, but comparable.
I think if there's one thing that this entire series has proven is how brutal Quake is as an esport. Because you just play so well, right? It demands perfection. Yep. I mean, look, let's be real, folks. That's why we love it. That's why this game just ticks all the boxes. But you'll be playing really well for 10 minutes, and then one small mistake, boom, the whole map is gone. So the amount of focus you need to put forward. I love it. I mean, look, as a spectator of this Pro League, I love it. But if you're in the player's shoes, probably don't feel so good in those closing moments. But Razy was on the receiving end of that in the first map, able to bring it back in map 2, as now our third map's going to be the decider. And, I mean, I don't even know what to suggest. I don't know what to make of this, because it's been so close all the way through that we'll just let the remaining map play out and tell us how the journey unfolds itself.
Yeah, I don't know how to call this one either, right? Both players have kind of put one foot forward. Definitely Maxter with the 8-5 early on Deep Embrace. Wasn't quite the slash game from Razy we were looking for. Razy pulling it out. Again, as we mentioned during the game, you only got to win by 1. So he does manage to split the series, making game 3 a decider, which should make Chad happy, because I saw them say, like, hey, we've had kind of one-sided matches, but here you go. Why whoever's choosing these for the featured matches has some idea what's going on here. So it's going to be Strog, for Maxter, and Razy will be on the Ranger. We're moving on to Ruins. Now, both players have been hitting great rails. Both players been setting up traps, playing absolutely 5-head mode for sure. So this is a hard one to tell, right? I'm really excited to see what the predictions will be like here. And they do still favor Razy. Could mean a nice payout there for all the Maxter fans, but I don't know how to call this one because I think it could absolutely go either way.
We're just looking at two players that can have absolutely through the roof rails. It's a rail heavy map anyway. The battle of two mediums. Also looking at how they're going to probably approach things here. The Ranger's going to have so much more of that, I guess, setup potential. Being able to spring a trap, a little bit of bonus mobility. There's a lot of layers that you can bring forward where Ranger in the hands of someone like Razy can be very, very scary. Especially with kind of how he's been playing in the other two maps. I know map 1 was a bit of a disaster. The second map, he was in charge, more than likely because he just had access to that piercing sight that he was managing so well. Now Razy gets to be a little bit more brutal, I suppose. And is Maxter going to be able to get a good start here to maybe start turning the tide somewhat? This will be the decider. I mean, it's one map apiece. This is the good stuff.
Yeah, I sent Peeker in there at the beginning on a little suicide mission to get some information, and he got exactly what he wanted. So Maxter starting this one up. But I have to agree with you, Ketchup, on what you said. I do like Ranger and Razy on this. Right? It allows him to get aggressive and to throw out some burst damage or to have an escape as well. I mean, Peeker can be effective more as information gathering and sometimes as a kind of finisher, but we'll have to see. First rail of the game goes to Maxter. Second rail as well. Razy gonna throw out his orb on a fake though, and that's gonna allow Peeker to come in, try to do some damage. Razy weaseling his way out of that one. I'm not sure. Oh my God, he actually falls back through, gets hit with the rail. Now looking for the follow-up, and Maxter can't find it as Razy slips away.
Not only does Razy slip away, but he steals the heavy. So if he just picks up a little bit of health here, it's going to be like nothing ever happened. Does manage to get a rail through the teleporter. Razy sticking around, actually looking to get some more damage of his own, but he's playing such a scary game. I am clenching very hard here. However, 10 seconds left to go on that heavy. One that Razy, without a rocket launcher, that is going to be kind of hard to fight for. But it looks like the way things are going, maybe they're just going to trade 1 for 1. As Maxter near the Mega, probably going to take that one as Razy takes heavy, and we swap item for item again. I cannot believe that Razy is still alive. I cannot believe this is still a 0-0 map.
Yeah, in a lot of cases where players would have said, hey, I'm out of here, peace, Razy stuck around and held his ground. And you mentioned earlier about how Razy, it tends to kind of dismiss what happened in previous maps and focus on what's happening now. And I think that kind of play exactly, right? He's not playing scared. He's still confident in his own skill sets. And I think that's what we're seeing. So Mega is back up. Razy trying to hit some rails. And Razy definitely trying to play a more long mid-range game right now, as great rails from Maxter on the retreat. Yeah, the heavy was picked up by Razy. Another great rail. Maxter, where have you been keeping all of these? Orb up to the top level, and Peeker gonna try to come back out, but Razy just using all the bags of tricks to just try to not give Maxter any sort of opportunities at all.
Is this just the Quake edition of Ranger, man too angry to die?
Maybe.
He's fed up of it, man. He's been stuck there for so long. I'm out. See you later. God, I wish I had a steak. Anyway, 3 minutes already gone down, and somehow the map remains to be 0 to anything else. I mean, if you're in Max's situation now, that concentration just needs to keep itself all the way through. You know, you've been in a position where you just can't finish someone off, and you just get really frustrated by it. You're like, come on, how weak was he? But one thing that has kind of existed here is that Razy, by surviving the way he has been on the back foot for the entire 3 minutes. It has allowed Maxter to get all the items, all the weapons. He's been incredibly healthy, with the exception of that rail that Razy just landed here. But you can see why Razy's continuing to play really careful. You know, he believes in his ability to escape with his life and survive, but at the same time, he actually has only used a couple of orbs this entire map. There's another one. Chooses to fake out, but Maxter will not take the bait. However, Razy does take this Mega away, looking for the opening rail. Man, this has just been such a bizarre map to me, but Razy I mean, there's a really clear, confident game plan here.
I mean, it's pretty wild to think that through the course of this map, we've seen 12 rails hit between the two players, but it's still 0-0. Right? Like, typically, you're going to have that many rails, and there's going to be at least a frag up on the board. But it goes to show the type of game that these two are playing, right? We've not really had a close quartered battle at all, even in the situations where it looked like it was going to open in such a way. It did not happen at all. Orb comes out. All the heavy, though, stolen away by Maxter. He was there for it, and first frag. A big risk for Razy. I kind of like that he took it, but unfortunately, it did not work out for him at all. Ketchup. He got hit with that initial rocket moving in, and that was kind of the downfall, resulting in the first frag for Maxter.
However, Maxter is still quite weak. Thankfully, the existence of that rail alone means that Razy can't push forward. He cannot take that risk, and actually, even being here near heavy, taking a risk. Maxter flying around the backside? I mean, hello. I'm not used to seeing people come around that way.
Yeah. Maxter. It's got to be... Ooh. That rail go through both of them? I didn't even see there. Light picked up, and Maxter now... It kind of in the same boat that Razy was in earlier, much less, or a much smaller stack. We're 5 minutes in, though. There is still so much time, but both players kind of committing to this mid-long range sort of warfare. And, you know, Maxter, I think, making a lot of great decisions. His rail accuracy much better than what Razy's put up on the board. But Razy, 9 heavies, 4 megas. Maxter, 2 heavies, 7 megas. And then 11 lights for Maxter. So kind of incredible how these two have split the map.
Another thorough understanding of the situation. No reason to be too aggressive. No reason to push. We've got 4 minutes left to go with only 1 frag, so it kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier on. Very much shades of Blood Covenant. The aggressive rocket jump from Razy doesn't really result in any damage, and Maxter is even going to use that teleporter. Doesn't even seem slightly interested. I think he wants to make sure it's safe first.
Yeah, out of the teleporter, immediately into a rail, drops out Peeker as he falls to the lower level. Maxter still making Razy guess what is going on. Heavy's up as Razy came up the stairs. Maxter fired a shot, but that one did not hit. And now Mega is going to be in the sights of both of these players now. Is Maxter going to maybe try to assault from the other side? The opponent's already there. No opportunity to do so. He's just got to hold on to this 1 frag, but man, that could be nerve-wracking catch-up.
It's the risk attached to playing that kind of 1 frag game. I know not everyone is a huge fan of the hyper defensive plays. Sometimes people just want to see, you know, guns blazing, I guess. But with this kind of game plan that is so defensive and so careful, yes, it can result in a 1 frag game, but there's such risk attached to it. Now there's the aggressive push from Razy. The defensive peeker, though, actually means that maybe Maxter can still secure this frag, and that would be unbelievable. Razy decides, you know what, nah, I'm not even going to risk that. I'm going to grab that Mega and I'm going to get out of here. That rail! Good Lord.
Gosh, the rail and then the LG as he came down, just that perfect bead. Just well done by both players there. I mean, from a defensive perspective, this game's been really, really incredible. Maxter, though, still in the lead. And here's the 2-minute warning. If this ends up being a 1-0 game for Maxter, I would not only be shocked, but hold on. Orb coming out. Fight here at the heavy. Maxter very, very low. And Maxter suicides, making it a 0-0 game. Razy's so low, he's got to rearm and re-health up. We've got Peeker coming back up. It can't get the job done, but oh, that is too bad. And then the LG can Razy. Oh my God, Ketchup, I can't even believe it.
Oh, even these rails. The amount either connection will make. Razy hit on the way. And actually, that heavy Maxter, I mean, you can clearly, he didn't want to risk it.
No.
There's going to have to be such care here. We're just about to hit that 1-minute warning. This could very well be a 1 frag game the way things have currently gone. Would not be surprised. But if there's a risk to be taken, you've got to be damn sure that it's a risk worth taking. Gets the free rail. Maxter does the classic Strog maneuver, get the Pika out, use the rail, and during the downtime hit one of your own. But the flyby from Razy! If he missed that shot, absolutely Maxter would have gone in. I'm sure of it. But the light, it's too risky. Wait, there is so much risk. Maxter thought about going through that teleporter and went, nah, you know what? Nah, I'm good. I'm good.
Maxter with that long-range rocket, it does do a little bit of damage, but unfortunately also gives away his position as well. 30 seconds left to go, and Razy is a beast right now. Full stack Maxter, completely missing any armor, and oh no, he just didn't see it coming at all, and Razy, he reverses everything. The tables have turned. There's 10 seconds left to go. Pika coming out. A lot of damage, but not enough. The rockets go in. Maxter's low, but he's going to go for it anyway. He's got balls of steel. He's going to try to grab it, and he cannot do it. It's Razy who wins it 0-1. And I don't know that I've seen that low scoring of a series in quite some time. Razy taking it 2-1 the series overall. Maxter was so close to actually taking Razy out, but the suicide on the lower levels near the heavy ended that one. Unbelievable.
There were so many last minute clutch rails that needed to be landed to keep Razy in it. And you know, even down to that last one near light armor super shotgun, that one little tiny rail, there was a smidgen of an angle, and he was able to somehow find it. We'll bring back Lethal, and I tell you what, of all the ways I thought this series could have gone down, I don't think that's how I imagined it would have ended. That was a test of absolute like patience and composure, and Razy able to I think match himself. And be able to get that last minute one up. But Lethal, mate, what a close series it was!
Mate, it was absolute madness. Like, between these two, who on earth would have expected, like, these kind of scorelines on the last two maps? It was just absolutely ridiculous. But it just shows you don't need a high score game to be in with a real treat, really, do you? Like, you know, every single moment we were categorizing exactly how things were going to shape up towards the later stages. At one point, Razy, he only had like 800 damage around the 8-minute mark. And I was thinking to myself, when are you going to lay down the law at some point? And both players in the last two maps, especially that map in particular, like they were completely allergic to each other. Just wanted to keep well away from each other on so many different circumstances. But yeah, it was just high in-depth intellectual plays, and neither player was really giving each other much room in terms of like errors or mistakes or really much openings, was it? So incredible stuff. And you know, Razy does manage to topple him in the end. Mate, it could have gone so many different ways. It was just ridiculous.
I'd say, Wheat, congratulations for Razy for being able to pull this one through. It was, wow. I mean, we kind of look at all three of those maps, and a lot happened to both players, actually. A mixture of huge successes, gigantic disasters. I mean, looking at that first map where Razy straight up fell off the map. And that was what, you know, cost him the deep embrace where we're all like, oh my lord, what? You're not used to seeing that happen to Razy. You're not used to seeing that happen to anyone in Pro League.
Yeah,
and then
shake
the
it out.
map,
You know?
Yeah,
like let that stuff happen now so that it doesn't happen during the championship.
Hey man, I think everyone would rather it happen now than when we're playing at the finals, right? Because if that's how you go out when the chips are down, then I don't want to be the first person that speaks to them after the match. They'll probably have some not so nice words for you.
Yep.
Anyway, we are going to go for a quick break, and when we return, CNZ versus Kilson will be going head to head in our final featured matchup of the day. This is the Quake Pro League. Thanks for watching so far. One left to go. See you soon. All right, everyone, it's time to finish up tonight's Quake entertainment here for the Quake Pro League. My name's Ketchup, joined by DJ Wheat and Lethal. Kilson and CNZ, they're about to go head-to-head. People have been talking about it during the pre-stream countdown. They've been talking about it during the break. There's a lot of eyes on this matchup, but I think there's also, Wheat, a lot of eyes on CNZ. And as soon as we're ready, we'll look at those picks and bans and talk about the matchup.
Yeah, I mean, you know, CNZ is one of those interesting players because for anyone who's been following QPL for a while, you can remember there's a lot of excitement about CNZ entering into the league, right? He came in through the challengers. He really just kind of impressed a lot of us, and we were like, oh my gosh. But then sort of tapered off a little bit. And, you know, I can't really give you an exact reason for why that was. But since then, we've sort of seen the building of CNZ again, right? Like, we must build him stronger and better. And that's kind of what he's done. So he's taken maps and victories off of players that you wouldn't expect. And I think CNZ, more than anything, is building to a level of consistency that we are seeing in either top players or up-and-coming players. And there's no doubt, like, I think we've all said CNZ is a really inspiring player, right? He will occasionally have these moments of brilliance, but we haven't seen the consistency to go along with it. So I would say this matchup versus Kilson, it's a very, very big trial for him. Kilson looking to retain that #1 spot and just ride the wave into the championships. But yeah, I understand why a lot of people have their eyes on this matchup and specifically on CNC.
Yeah.
No.
So I was just going to add as well onto what Wheat just said as well. In terms of victories and the map wins, of Saudi scraped a map win of Venga recently, beat Chain 2-1, defeated Dramas 3-0 and Maxter 2-1. So Wheat's absolutely hit the nail on the head. He's definitely striving towards as he goes towards his Quake World Championships. But, you know, just going to his map picks quickly, quite interesting enough. Normally Kilson is the one who banned Vale almost straight away as one of his first picks, but CNZ's done that for him. Kilson's banned Ruins. And I always feel like CNZ's obviously been quite strong corrupt to keep. Now and again, sometimes he's been very, very good. Sometimes it's been a bit meh. You know, it's been alright. You know, it's not been too shabby. But Kilson's realised this and thought, well, do you know what? Between the choice of Insomnia and corrupt to keep, let's ban corrupt to keep just in case towards the very end and going into Insomnia. And we've seen some incredible stuff from Kilson on Blood Covenant. So love to see what he can do, especially against the Athena pick of CNZ.
Mm-hmm. The thing that's standing out to me really is the Death Knight pick. Insomnia is a small map. It can be very ambush heavy, so it will fit that Death Knight playstyle. Champion's kind of built to do one thing and one thing alone, really, which is just massive shred. But we are now starting to diverge a little bit. You know, this was a map that kind of exclusively belonged to mobility-based champions alone. And now, you know, here we are with a little bit more experimentation. Death Knight, it makes a lot of sense that the champion would get picked here, especially if, you know, yeah, it's a small map. You've got someone like Strog to deal with and you're going to be listening out. Should make the ambush style a lot better. But I tell you what, while these players get ready, what we're going to do about predictions. We'll start with you, Marcus, and then we'll do Harry, and I'll let you take it away.
You know, I don't think I'm ready to give CNZ a clean victory against Kilson here quite yet, but I think I would be willing to definitely give him a map. So I'm going to have to stick to my guns here and go 2-1 Kilson.
Harry?
Yeah, I'm going to say the same 2-1. We've been saying some great things about CNZ. It's like saying, oh, CNZ's been incredible. He's had great performance recently. 3-0. Like, I'll give the poor guy at least a damn map, like, because it's a bit of a shame, really, isn't it? We'll feel a bit too bad. But yeah, I agree. I think it will slide one map past him. But if anyone doesn't know, I think this is Kilson's final match in the Pro League leading up to the Quake World Championship. So if he wins this, 2-1 or 3-0, I do believe he should secure #1 seed.
His social media suggested so. However, I could be wrong. Shouts to my preparation. Anyway, I'll let you both take this one away. I'm going to join the stream chat. I'm going to enjoy my lunch, and I'm going to watch some good Quake. Take it away, lads.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think right as we are marching closer and closer to the championship, Lethal, everyone's kind of looking at who their favorites are, right? I think there's like the who you expect, but I think that this might be a championship of surprises, right? I mean, we're on LAN. We're equalizing everything for the first time in a while. that's really exciting. And based off of the way, like, I wouldn't expect, or I wouldn't call those flukes in the championship, because we've seen that throughout the season. So, you know, will that happen? I don't know. But based off the way that some players are playing, like Maxter, like CNZ, I'm really excited for what is potentially possible at the championship in just, what, like about a month.
Yeah, I do you know, I completely agree. I think this could be one of the closest finals we've ever had entirely. The fact that, yeah, sure, we've got Rafa, Wenger, and Raze, the staples, Avec and Zeneku on the same path as well. But you've got like Dramus, you've got CNZ as well, Maxter, three really dark horses, as I described about Dramus earlier on. It's the fact that he took down Rafa, Wenger, and Raze, like, and that's just ridiculous in itself. Like, it's hard enough taking down one damn of those players and taking down all three. And the fact that he's done that, and now he's been very hot and cold. Once they have that 2-week gap between the final week, week 18, and going to the Quake World Championships, we're going to see a lot of practice, but again, a lot of improvisation, and to see how much these guys have rectified all their past mistakes and improvements leading into it. And of course, being in a LAN environment once again, so there's again another factor to if you pressure on. So you could see, you probably see like 4 or 5 players who could win the entire thing, but those 3 dark horses are going to be the ones where they could create a huge bump in the road, maybe just take one of them down and knock him into the losers bracket to give him one of the most horrendous paths possible, and that's a stamina play. But honestly, there's so many stories.
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
You nailed it, because with all of these potentials, all of these like could happen situations, what it could mean is that an early drop of one of the top tier players that everyone expects to then march to the finals now has to battle it through the lower bracket, which can totally throw the train off of the track. So
yeah,
that is exciting to think that as early as the quarterfinals, that kind of thing could be happening. We'll have to wait and see. We don't got to get too far ahead of ourselves, because we got a featured match right in front of us. We're about to jump into nap number 1, Deep Embrace. It is Kilson on the Ranger versus CNZ on the Doom. Lethal, take it away.
Thank you very much, Beyond, mate. We're going to see exactly how this is going to be a close affair. We talk about CNZ a lot. Let's see if he can bring whatever he can to the table. Even then, though, for Kilson, picking up heavy, just waiting for him to dart around and see if he's going to go for the mega. But great LG there from CNZ. But the problem is he doesn't pick up the item, so it's going to cost him dearly. And that's going to be the first frag ready for Kilson on the board.
I mean, that was the dream start for Kilson with Ranger, right? Threw out that Dire Orb. He had to kind of throw it into the wall, but it didn't matter. He still got the results that he wanted, which was positioning on the Mega, and then he got the frag. So Kilson really opening up quite nicely, and I think with that perfect spawn on the Ranger. Does get tagged with the rail as he jumps up to the upper level, and good rails coming out. CNZ, he's ready for that orb, though, and a rocket down the throat, and Kilson does go down. We're tied up now 1-1.
Yeah, that was so damn risky, but I wasn't really too sure how that was going to play out for Kilson. He probably felt like he's going to be in a lot of trouble anyway, even after picking up the Mega, so decided to take a bit of a gamble. Good first round, but the problem is for CNZ, he's railable, and just managed, he doesn't get out in the end. Manages to fist bump away, but the problem is Kilson still catches him, even in Berserk, and it's so tough, even with a rail, let alone an LG bout, and that does mean that CNZ will spawn in the Mega. Does pick that up nicely. Kilson just going to stand his ground and, of course, delay the heavy. So, going to try and play us a little bit greedy if he can to try and keep these items segregated. But does find him. Doesn't hit the railroad. Doesn't matter too much as of yet. Still on the warpath. Still trying to cover his ground, keep the height advantage here. But the problem is, the direct into the orb as well. Kilson barely misses on 17 HP. That was so vital for him. But the tripod's going to come out on top. CNZ tie things up.
I mean, CNZ, right, on top of not only his aim, which is looking really sharp, his decision-making is just phenomenal. I mean, that was a great tri-bolt to finish it off, letting him tie this game up. And, you know, both players, I like what we're seeing here. The delay of that heavy made a lot of sense. Unfortunately for Kilson, it didn't really get to play out with him. And going up the jump pad, Kilson lands the rail, but CNZ gets a shotgun blast of his own, and now up on the board 3. But Kilson smells blood, knows that CNC's very, very low, goes down the murder hole, and does manage to get him. We're about 2.5 minutes in, and we're tied 3 apiece.
Those health bubbles saved Kilson's bacon then. Kilson might have Mega for free. Oh, goes straight in. He actually uses Berserk and catches him completely by surprise. That was huge there. And if Kilson had a rail,
Yeah.
would have been even further damage. But good stuff from Kilson just to keep the damages inflicted as much as physically possible here. Coming up the LG, 98 HP. Will he about to survive? No, he does not. CNZ just, standard, just switches to the rail at the most high pressure situation. Still takes him down, hits the first rail, could go for the second, but doesn't have the best of reads as of yet. So leaves him be, potentially pick up the heavy. Actually decides not to, but CNZ should have the mega here, depending on the circumstances. As the LG belt comes in, takes him, but Kilson's the one who actually manages to win that.
I mean, that was the right move by CNZ. He knew that Mega was spawning. He had basically a little burst of health there to that battle, but Kilson's LG was just a little bit more superior in that situation, tying us back up yet again. But the back and forth, I mean, these two are literally trading blows, and we have not yet seen one take away with a huge advantage, but there was a nice heavy pickup into the rail frag for CNZ. He's now going to have an opportunity to potentially grab a mega here, but instead gets LG down, waiting just outside the teleporter, but that is not going to happen. Kilson's not going to take that bait. You dangle the worm, but that fish is not taking it. And now another LG battle on the lower level. Kilson very low again as CNZ with the plus back. LG manages to now create a 2-frag lead for himself, and can he make it 3? Oh, he runs out of LG cells. That is an opportunity for Kilson to open up, make it a 1-point game again.
Oh, I'm confident CNZ would have won that, no problem. That's just, pretty typical with the ammo management there. And CNZ, it's quite a neutral player. And he's been a lot more aggressive this time round, but Kills has now also shown a bit of flair onto the server. Of Kills now still top mid, decides to back away and hold on to the heavy. Perfectly understand. We've got a nice stack to work with, but CNZ's not too far off here. Mega's up in the next 10 seconds, looking to try and make the attempt to challenge it. Just going to circle around to the shoddy, which to see if he can at least, if he can't get top mid control, then at least have the low grounds and make the push. But the tri-bot's just going to keep CNZ away. Kilson picks up both of these items, but CNZ's not in a position here to fight. He needs to try and get away if he can. Kilson realizes that this is crunch time, will get the 7th frag, and of course retains the lead.
Yeah, and now Kilson's finding himself, I think with some...
Oh my God!
Oh, wow!
Oh!
Wow! Could you imagine if he would have landed that hit and then picked up the heavy on that one? I like the play, but it didn't quite work out. And Kilson is just, I mean, he's showing his experience and veteran status right now, really keeping calm and sticking to his own game and his guns. And nicely done as he's now 2 frags ahead, looking for potentially a 3rd one as well. But a bit unfortunate for CNZ, as Kilson's going to find a 3rd converted frag off that one, making it now 9-6.
Absolute man, especially with the stack Kilson had just a minute ago. I thought things will spiral out of control. CNZ's not doing too bad. He's recuperated, but the problem is he tanked a rail whilst picking up that mega here. He hasn't really got many weapons in his arsenal to play around with. Kilson just holding that angle to see if he goes through the murder hole to try and continue that recovery process, but Kilson does have a slight stack advantage, a much bigger stack advantage after that first rail. Look and see if he goes to rockets, which he will not. CNZ's backing away again. Mega's up in the next 5 seconds, but CNZ's doing some good reads here, and is actually rotating perfectly well just on the defense. But the problem is that rocket's not going to do him any favors, teetering on death. The problem is though, he's the one who needs to be the aggressor. Lovely stuff from Kilson. So patient.
Yeah, and that was the right place to be, that mid-level. He knew how very, very hurt CNZ was, and I gotta say, the momentum of this game changed completely when Kilson landed those 3 rails in a row over by Mega. The first one hit before the pickup. Oh, snap! A mid-air dire orb for frag number 11, and now Kilson slowly turning to or walking away with this. But as I was mentioning, that after that 3 rails and then one that negated the Mega, this game changed completely. Like, Kilson, something clicked there. He downloaded his opponent. I don't know what it is, But ever since that moment, it has just been night and day, as there is now 6 frags and so neck and neck and so close, Lethal, to really show you the potential here of CNZ. But I think Kilson, he's showing his championship qualities right here for sure.
I don't blame him for his weapon selection there. Trying to hit an LG against someone in berserk mode is just so difficult. Decided just to switch to the rockets anyway to play it safe. And yeah, what a change of effect here. Now, opponent's calling Railson at this point, considering the amount he's been hitting so far, and he's just not letting up at all in the slightest. Just another one added to the tally here. And I do feel sorry for CNZ a little bit, just considering his combat skills, his aim skill at the very beginning during the first 4 or 5 minutes, especially with the LG, was a tiny bit better than Kilson's at one point. But now, Kilson's just decided to turn on that beast mode, and now just hitting almost everything and anything that comes towards it. But Mega is up, still continue to hit these rails. This rail to orb or orb to rail, he just don't care at this point. Weak 16-6, this map's pretty much done.
You know, in a lot of ways, this is somewhat reminiscent of what we would see from Rafa a lot, right? At his, peak, where this might start off a little bit slower, definitely give his opponent a little bit more room. But once you find that moment, right, like that critical moment in the game, that's when you really start tightening that grip and putting on an immense amount of pressure. And Kilson's done exactly that. And I mean, not to say that's a strategy unique to Rafa, but I just feel like the energy we're getting out of Kilson now versus what we got out of the first 2 minutes is totally different. And Kilson has taken what was such a close game and has created a massive deficit between the two, as another combo kill, this time rocket to rail off the spawn, gonna find the LG. Nope, through the teleporter he goes, but he's gonna go for it anyway. Turns around, still grabs it. 20-6.
This version of Kilson, well, I say it's both, we've seen different versions, it's basically been the same, but on land this guy is just going to crush it. He seriously is, considering the way he's been playing all season long. He wants to guarantee that first seed. After this map, he'll be 1 map away from securing it, and there we have it, 21-6. Considering how close it was at the very beginning, I don't think we expected it to spiral that much, considering CNZ's aim skill alone was obviously competing against it. But look at the damage difference as well. 2,305 difference in comparison. 23 items for Kilson, 12 for CNZ. And look at 67% with the rail for Kilson. So hitting 31 out of 46. Out of 46. You know, that is tough. That is tough to consume.
That is wild. 67%, you're going to be like, oh yeah, would he shoot like 12 rails? No, actually 40 some rails. To maintain that is definitely pretty wild. But, all kicking off there with that perfect spawn for Kilson at the beginning, letting him grab that heavy and orb over to the Mega. Although the pace that Kilson ultimately achieved wasn't necessarily found in that first few minutes. Kilson, his sea legs were identified, and he was like, let's go sailing. 21-6 is pretty substantial frag difference, especially when you consider just how back and forth it was in those, in the first half of the game. So we're going to have to put that game behind us, though, and move on to Blood Covenant, where Kilson will be playing the Visor, and we're going to have CNZ on the Athena. And if Railson comes back for a second round here, I do have some worry for CNZ.
Yeah, and Kilson's also very strong about Blood Covenant. Not the reason why I selected it, but statistically, he plays it now and again, but he's been known to be very strong on that map as well. I think CNZ is probably thinking to himself, why on earth did I pick that map? Why didn't I just go to Corrupted Keep and avoid those rails entirely? Because he's had some really good and average moments. So he maybe could have had one of those good moments against Kilson that time round, but sadly, Corrupted Keep was banned at the later stages. But he did have the opportunity to, but yeah, just one of those things. But yeah, you're right, Blood Covenant will be next with the Visor versus the Athena pick. Athena, very, very standard on this map. Visor can be, depending on the player you are and how you want to approach this matchup. And then later on, you see Ketchup did make a point about that Death Knight. Not something you normally see in terms of playing on Insomnia, but the Strog will be a decent pick, I'll say. Not the hardest of counters, but a good pick for CNZ anyway to go onto that third and final map. But we'll see how things go here. He does a Diathena, so we'll give him some leeway to get himself in some awful situations, or hopefully save him chasing some of those frags to be able to close out some of those frags if Kilson's in a really bad spot. It's all going to be about those hourglasses, so there's going to be certain areas on the map which CNZ's going to be heavily keeping his eyes on. But yeah, Kilson is hungry, isn't he? He's been hungry for a championship for a long time now. It's been a while since he's won a stage final, but to win a Quake World Championship, it's going to be something he's been keeping near and dear to himself. And having that first seed is going to be a huge must for him to give him that confidence boost he needs.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, and it doesn't, I don't know that it even matters the results of this matchup overall. I don't quote me on that one. I may not be, I may be wrong, but, Kilson's looking to be that form that we expect him to be right where he's at. I'm still impressed with CNZ. I am worried for him a little bit on this map, like that one map win I threw out in the prediction. Maybe that's going to come on Insomnia. I don't know. I think this one is going to be pretty tough. I kind of feel like in some ways that the Visor and the Athena are negating one another from a vision perspective, right? Definitely there's a momentum and movement advantage over here for CNZ, but is that going to be enough if Kilson's landing every single rail every time he sees you? I don't know the answer to that, but we're going to answer it pretty soon.
And the fact that he has pace in sight as well. Oh, he actually just wins over the heavy or just on the left-hand side, but CNZ should get taken down, and he does. Yeah, that was a close affair. Really just begun this matchup within 15 seconds and gets that first frag, but CNZ has to back away again. An explosive start as both players were trying to go for the exact same item and have absolutely no agreement at all in the slightest. Still hits that rail, and we know how hard it is to hit those rails when someone, or especially your opponent, strafing lined up with the heavy machine gun. But 45 HP, does pick up the light, won't be available, but can take the risk to go for the mega, but the heavy has already been picked up by CNZ.
Yeah, we got sight launched, and immediately you see that rail, another rail as he comes. Oh my gosh, 3? Hello, is there a 4th here somewhere? Doesn't matter, he just drops down. I mean, at this point, Kilson's okay with just knowing I've got the advantage because I just hit 3 rails, and so my opponent has 0 stack. In fact, around the corner, another one, and CNZ is saying, this is not normal. Someone check his PC because it seems like piercing sight is not turned off at all, and Kilson's going to grab that heavy. He will not be able to make it over to the mega in time. Actually, I take that back because CNZ is just not there, and Kilson just kind of bullying his way through this this second map.
I kind of feel like at this point, Kilson doesn't even need the piercing sight. He's, for the first time in a while, like, we know that piercing sight is used to get those angles or prep for the items early, etc. But he's actually using it for just continued aggression. You saw that as well. Didn't have the full info. He knew where he could be, but just used the piercing sight anyway just to keep the aggression going. And I love that as well. That just heavily favors Kilson's style here. Does take the first rail from CNZ, but he returns with one of his own. CNZ is going to be heading away as fast as physically possible, but very lucky that Kilson just fumbled that jump just a tad. But we'll find him. LG damage helped him just a tad, but not going to help a huge amount. It does pick up the Omega and the Light, but CNZ a world of trouble here.
Is in a world of trouble. And yes, chat, yes, this is not normally. You nailed it. You nailed it. I was wrong. You're the copy pasta masters out there. There's the second frag for Kilson. He's going to get rewarded with the heavy. And, I don't think that Kilson feels the need to necessarily have a pacing of frags is the same way that he did last game. Even going into the final half of this game with, say, a 3 to 5 frag lead is going to feel pretty comfortable, despite the fact that, yes, your opponent does have grapple and can potentially use that momentum to try to chase down. But Kilson's just going to, I think play the game that he knows that he can play and not try to necessarily push and achieve the 20 frag that he did in the previous game. But everything that he's done, in my opinion, Lethal, has just been a sort of textbook way to play Visor here. And you could clearly see the number of reps and the number of hours that Kilson has on this map. And even against some of his opponents and his understanding of how they play, it's all top notch. And we're definitely seeing Kilson in championship form right now.
Yeah, and Kilson at one stage hit 6 for 6 rails, and that's where ZNZ probably questioning what he needs to do. Like, you can't keep his distance, he can't fight close range because the aim skill seems to be absolutely on form, championship form, as you've already mentioned, compared to what we normally see from a lot of these other players. But funny thing with Kilson, with the piercing sight, he just uses it instantly every single time. He's not scared or afraid to save it for a later date or anything like that. He's got the high ground, but it's a bit of a struggle. I say that after the direct rocket he just got there and on. And CNZ looking to try and back away, but rightly so, Kilson's faking to go for the heavy and actually went all the way back round to try and bait him. He could take him down if he wants to, especially if he hits this rail, but decides to leave it for a bit. Actually did more than what he's bargained for, especially with those last 2 tri-bolt shots. And just circling his way around and catches him as he picks up the Mega, but still got an opportunity here to try and get this kill as CNZ try to throw a spanner in the works to try and at least... it's just absolutely ridiculous stuff here from Kilson so far. CNZ is still very, very weak. I kind of feel like he's been weak for the last 3 minutes of this matchup, out of the 4.5 minutes, and just nothing he can do.
Yeah, it's like, am I spawning with less health? What's going on here? So things to point out here in terms of statistics, as you can kind of see what's happening. Kilson right now a 73% rail with 15 shots. He's has 1,800 damage to the 1,100 of CNZ. Take a look at the items as well. 7 heavies, 5 megas for Kilson, and 9 lights. Over on the other side, CNZ, 2 heavies, 4 megas, and 16 lights. So you're really seeing what Kilson is doing to CNZ and how CNZ is trying to combat it and how hard it has been for CNZ to collect any level of stack. And despite the fact that he's rocking a petite model here, it's not stopping Kilson from landing those rails. And it says it all in the stats. So CNZ could use a little bit more control over the major items, but that's easier said than done, Lethal, as we have piercing sight once again popped, and that just allows Kilson to once again position himself perfectly, set up how he wants to. He is holding on to this 4-frag lead with confidence.
And 10 seconds ago, that's probably the first time I've seen Kilson so weak that he actually had to back away and just put a stop to that aggression. But CNZ's still trying to make a comeback here. He's trying to slide on in with the LG. Good amount of LG damage, but the Rockets are just even better here. Kilson again just adding more to the tally. 5-0. 4 minutes left. Pierce in sight. He's just going to use it straight away. He doesn't care. He's just looking to continue on and try and find that 6th frag. But this is looking so good. In terms of the item pickups for CNZ, the only times he's able to secure an item was due to the fact that he's been spawning on the opposite side of the map. But apart from that, though, he has contested a couple. He's taken a lot of damage in the process. It's been pretty bleak here for CNZ. It hasn't really got much time as of yet, and I think a lot of people probably agree here that this could be almost said and done here, depending on what risks CNZ's going to take to catch Kilson off guard.
That little move there by CNZ could have actually been a lot worse than it was. Kilson a little slow on the trigger there with the LG, but I feel like he could have stacked 100 damage pretty easily. However, Kilson's not concerned about that. Missing one opportunity when you're 5 frags ahead is not really going to destroy your game or your momentum on any level. There's 3 minutes left to go, and Kilson's goal right now, in my opinion, is to not leave the featured cam on the stream, right? He wants to leave his opponent with that 0 and say, I need to be featured this entire matchup. Now, he's got to be careful here as there's going to be a battle, and there it is. CNZ says denied as he hits the rail over on the heavy and puts his first frag on the board. The question, Lethal, is can he make anything happen? 4 frags, 2.5 minutes or less than seems pretty tough.
Yeah, as well as denying the items, he's got to try and deny the weapons out of the hands of Kilson. But on a map like this, it's going to be a tall order to say for itself. And with the piercing sight, it's just another added bonus to the arsenal to keep away from his opponent if he does change to that defensive posture. It's not normally something we see from Kilson, but he may have to at this stage, considering the stack difference. But we'll see. We'll see. Heavy up in the next 20 seconds. Since they're dropping down to see if he can try and catch him. Does have the grapples to at least secure some of his frags if he wants to, which he's going to try and do now. But Kilson's just trying to rely on those defensive rockets and trying to hold rid of his choke points. This could be a second frag hit. Good direct. Misses the rail, but he's on 32 HP himself. Can't see it happening now. If it was a cleaner frag, maybe, but he doesn't even get it.
Yeah.
Which is, a bit of a shame.
Yeah, and of course, piercing sight there as well, allowing him to hit those types of shots almost completely safe, and that is probably going to be it. I do appreciate the fact that CNZ went for it, right? I mean, you get to these points in the games, Lethal, where it's like you've got to make a move. We might look at it and go, why would they choose to do that? But at some point, you've just got to go for it. And Kilson now putting himself in the back, knows at this point he's got this map won. He's going to eat a rail from the side. He wasn't able to completely shut out CNZ, but a low-scoring game. And Kilson played it marching towards absolute victory for sure. Less than a minute left to go. And Kilson's just going to hang out on the lower pillars. BM6 and chill a bit. CNZ does find a frag. And this Kilson is going to come off here. Make me eat my words as it's... Nope. Never mind. Not eating them.
Bless him, he tried, didn't he? He really did, but yeah, this is going to be all but done here at this point. That's the piercing sight, but it doesn't even matter. The score difference is way too much. Still cleans him up with the MG. Got the piercing sight, but yeah, doesn't even need to worry at this point. 10 seconds left, and it is going to be a 2-0 victory for Kilson so far, going into that third and final map. CNZ did everything he could, but it's like I said during the first 4 or 5 minutes, he was just constantly weak. Like, he just couldn't get around Kilson at all. It's just his awareness is just... just ridiculous in itself. And you can see from there, 51% out of the 31 shots fired against an Athena. Not too shabby at all.
Not too shabby. And then 24 lights picked up by CNZ, showing just how much he was trying to keep any level of stack against his opponent. But Kilson was even denying him. Every time he'd pick something up, a little bit of damage would come out. A rail, a tri-bolt, a rocket from nowhere, some LG damage. It all just added up. 3,300 damage for Kilson. CNZ putting out 2,700, but ultimately Kilson taking the victory, and that will secure will secure Kilson that #1 seed heading into the championship. As far as I know, if that was his last match, I'm not sure that anyone can quite catch up to him. Again, let the data experts maybe flee. Is like, actually, no, you're wrong, but I haven't heard that yet. But Kilson does take it. We're still going to go on to the third game, so don't go anywhere. It's going to be on Insomnia, where Kilson's going to rock that DK versus CNZ on the Strog. But I think we can say Kilson is ready for August. He is ready for the QPL Season 3 finals. You know, he's in good health. He's at the top of his game. He's been practicing regularly. You can check out his stream over on Twitch. He's been tweeting like who he's playing against, about for how long, and he is definitely running the laps to get in shape. But I confidently say this is the Kilson we want to see going in the championship. You know, eye problems out of the way, playing at a top level, all feeling good. That's really exciting for Kilson fans, and frankly, anyone that wants some exciting Quake for the Season 3 finals.
Yeah, I was looking at the next couple of weeks' matchups. I don't see him involved. So, yeah, this should be the final one. So, I assume he should secure that first seed anyway. But, do you know what? It gets to a point where, for Kilson, I kind of feel like he was ready months ago. Like, he's probably waiting for August back in, like, March. Like, it got to that point, really, hasn't it? He's just been looking so damn good. And a lot of these top players, you know, looking to also, or assume that they're the favourites going into it, Kilson's going to be a huge red flag. And I think he's going to be not a heavy favourite as of yet, because it does depend on, of course, going back into that offline environment, which not a lot of the players are used to as of yet. Of course, going back to land build as well. There's a lot of little things here and there, which Kilson, let's be honest, he's got enough experience, he's got enough adaptation. That really shouldn't bother him too much. As long as he plays his A game, as long as he plays like he does now, it should be perfectly fine. Just, you know, treating CNZ to do what he can, but he's going to make sure to secure this a 3-0. He doesn't want to go away from this, losing the final map of the league and then just like trying to brush it off. But even if he could, I don't think it would matter too much to him anyway at this point. But yeah, he's looking pumped, he's looking ready, he's been looking super strong, and I think everyone in the top 5, top 6 are going to be scared and worried about the consequences it could have on struggling against Kilson's heavily aggressive playstyle.
Yeah, I mean, Everyone should be on high alert going into the championships anyway. The talent pool is so very deep. We've got some exciting challengers that are coming in as well, looking to try to mix things up. And we are just a few short weeks away from what will absolutely be a pretty awesome final here for this season. So we are now officially live for game number 3. Yes, Kilson's picked up the series, but CZN's still looking to hand out some channel points for some folks while Kilson's looking to just make this another day at the office, clean it up 3-0 and call it good. That leaves him open road to just pretty much get ready to, oh my gosh, CNZ with the peeker kill to start things off. And then a great rail. Are we going to see the redemption here of CNZ for game number 3?
Maybe. It's a problem it's Kilson, isn't it? So I'm not gonna say anything yet so early on. But even with the flame strike, that missed a little bit earlier too, which is a little bit unfortunate. Minute has passed. Kilson has a slight stack lead. CNZ hasn't got the best of advantages in terms of his position, but just using that TP just to swerve around. I think he was just waiting for that key audio cue in order to give himself the info to flank all the way around. It's looking pretty damn good so far. I've not really seen the Death Knight that much at all in Insomnia, so I'm interested to see what Kilson's going to bring to the table here, especially against the likes of a Strog, especially using that Pika to a lot of his advantages here. Still has a Pika in hand, could use it if he wishes, but both of them directly next to each other. It's going to come straight forward. That flame strike's going to do so much damage using the Pika, but even then, picks up the bubble. He is railable. Is Kilson going to even attempt it? Mega is up, but now's his chance to score, to try and equalize the scoreline. Sandy isn't able to catch up to him, but Kilson just standing his ground, knew he was going to flank and make that rotation, and it's looking bad here for CNZ. Just a matter of time, potentially, until Kilson does try and get that first frag, but CNZ is making it extremely difficult for him at the moment.
He is. He's running a little scared as he's just around trying to pick up every health bubble he possibly can, but still on the board, protecting that one frag with everything that that he can. And 2 minutes in, still another low-scoring game that could turn explosive. We'll have to see. Most of the game has been somewhat controlled by CNZ, but this is the first time that Kilson's sitting on this monster stack and is just waiting for an opportunity to engage. And there it is. Flame Strike coming out. Peeker answers back, but On Fire will burn down. And Kilson finding the advantage of using the DK here on this map. That the flames obviously can really create interesting choke points, and any sort of close range battle can turn deadly, just like we saw there in the equalizing frag that makes this game 1-1.
It wasn't a bad response earlier from CNZ when Kilson dropped down, but now Kilson has decided to turn up the temperature a little bit more. Going up 2-1, does have Flame Strike in hand. This is the Pika, but tries to Flame Strike it as well. But look at that, look at the amount of tick of damage. I love that from Kilson as well. Just using that Death Strike, knowing that it was directly underneath him, and whilst he's using it, the Pika, he could do a little bit more. I think he did at least 60 or 70 damage from that Flame Strike. Oh, and the rail again, just another one to add there. 3-1, and good rail there. Good read as well. Novi's going to go for that. It's another one again. He just wants to 3-0, doesn't he? He's a greedy bugger, this man. But you know what? Loving every second of it.
I do. I mean, I think at this point you are in 1000% play to win mode. You are playing as if this is the finals of the season 3 of season 3, and you know that's what you've got to do. So I'm not surprised to see Kilson kind of open up and bring these frags out. CNZ trying his best here, but I do like the DK pick here. I think it makes a lot of sense. You know, Strog's been trying to put in some work with Peeker, but it's just not the same. I do think that Flame Strike serves as a really good ability to use here on this map, and CNZ very low once again. Kilson smells blood and knows it, but he's going to keep his control tight as he steals away even more armor, now baiting a little bit with the heavy, but will finally grab it for another full cycle and rotation. And clearly even the numbers show us that Kilson has maintained control most of this game.
It's going to sound weird, but even though there's been massive scoreline differences between these two, in the first 2 maps, maybe in this third map as well. It just makes me more excited for the Quake World Championships, really, because Kilson's been that strong, looking that punishing. Like I said before, it could be a huge red flag for some of these top players, but it can make it even more interesting to see what upsets can occur next month in Romania. But Kilson still, look at a huge stack just at the halfway point. CNZ stopping, wouldn't say stopping the inevitable as of yet, but stopping things from spawning out of control. But I'm sure Kilson's going to make a change to that soon enough. Does find him top mid, doesn't really care about the defensive rockets from CNZ, just going to dive on in, take that, and the Mega as well. He's hoping that with the Pika coming out to play, Kilson will just have to stand his ground and try and take it down, but instead just dives on straight past it, picks up the Mega as well after the frag, and now Kilson's still with his huge stack. I don't remember last time he didn't have a huge stack at this point.
Right. I mean, that's the whole control of Kilson. This map has been kind of the superstar for sure. He's only up by 3 frags, but if you do look at the armor and health differences between these two players for a majority of the map, CNZ has always been fighting from behind. It doesn't bode well for him when he throws out his peeker and then just, you know, becomes a little cyborg barbecue for a little while. It is just not working for him at all. And I think Kilson, once he realized that, oh wow, I have a huge advantage here in that from that perspective, and there is another one. Look at that, huge coming out of the teleporter with the frag. Now 5-1, and Kilson is like, I want my last match to be a 3-0, and I won't let anything stand in my way. Right now, he seems to have unlocked the secrets here for his matchup for Game 3 between himself and CNZ. He's looking for another one, but I'm guessing he's going to take this one all the way home.
And some of these rails Kilson's hitting, like, don't get me wrong, CNZ's actually doing some good drive-bys and actually dropping down at the perfect times over the last couple of frags, but the problem is that Kilson's just standing there ready for it. It's not, he doesn't care about his weapon selection. He's just going to stand there and do his rails, but he's taking a lot of rocket damage from being trapped into the corner there. Good use, or trying to make the good use of that peak, and so close to getting that second frag for CNZ. He needs to really get something down now because there's only 3 minutes left remaining. Not reliable anymore, but problem is Kilson is after blood once again. Got 2.5 minutes left, and again these reads, everything he's doing is just close to perfection here, and CNZ can't really get out of this hole which he's been trying to dig himself out of since the first map of the series, and still it's in the same pathway at the moment. Picks up the Mega anyway. Stack almost equal, just edging in favor of Kilson here, but he's not the one who needs to be the aggressor. It's CNZ needs to try and make the magic happen, but I don't think he's got any magic even at the very start, considering what we've seen so far. It's just Kilson just being absolutely ridiculous from start to finish.
And how do you bust down that wall to become the aggressor? At this point, I have no idea. I'm guessing CNZ is in a similar spot. Yeah. We've seen him slow down and maybe try to set up a trap, but again, it hasn't really worked out well. Kilson's anticipated those, has thrown out perfect flame strikes, and then it kind of leaves CNZ without much of a play at all. Now, Heavy is going to be left up just there briefly. Great rail by CNZ cross map, but again, Kilson's stack has been dominant the entire game, and I don't know how CNZ really deals with that. It's just rail after rail after rail, as you see 2 more, and I mean, you could clearly see Kilson appears to just be so much more comfortable on this map, especially with rail angle. I mean, just the amount he's fired compared, and there's the big burst damage for frag number 7. But 55% rail for Kilson this time, a little bit lower than his average we've seen over the last couple games. But comparatively to shots, he's shot twice as many rails. I think that is all about the reads that Kilson has had this entire game.
I'm surprised Kilson doesn't select this map more often. Like the last 1 or 2 times he has selected this map in the Pro League, it's just been phenomenal, and so that's another reason for it. Maybe it depends on the player he matches up against. It could be a lot of different reasons as to why, and you're just hitting everything and anything. It's just absolute madness. Just using the flame strike as well, just to see if he can get some tick damage behind that wall, but wasn't able to. But he's done more than enough damage already. 30 seconds left. This is pretty much done here. This is going to be a the cleanest of 3-0 victories here for Kilson, as we all secure that first seed into the Quake World Championships. And I think this is a good reason as to why. Just the performance he's put in not only today, but against most of his opponents. He's only lost, I think, one matchup this year. I think that was against Wenger, and even then that was a very close affair. But apart from that, though, a lot of people are going to be worried matching against this guy at the finals. So that is going to be GG. A 3-0 here for Kilson, and he's going to be pretty damn satisfied about that.
I would be. I mean, we have not seen too much Insomnia since it was released and then updated. In fact, I think we saw it more before it was kind of updated and rearranged. And then we saw a little bit less, but that can't be an excuse for players not really practicing the map, knowing the map. What I think definitely distinguished Kilson from CNZ in that particular case is that Kilson clearly had a game plan, clearly knew how he's going to use DK, and I felt like had been practicing the angles and possibilities and opportunities on that particular map. But let's bring Ketchup back in and see what he thought about the matchup. Welcome back.
Hello. I mean, anyone that knows me in Quake knows that I love a bit of Death Knight, so any chance to see the champion's always going to be sort of a welcome addition. But at the same time, preparation and thought that goes behind it. I'm a huge fan of innovators, as I've said before, people that aren't afraid to kind of just go with who they want. I was kind of looking at chat, even throughout the course of the map, and there were people, I think, jumping on maybe halfway through that final map going, wait a minute, DK on Insomnia? What? But we kind of got to see the reasoning behind it, you know? I mean, the Pika really did the majority of the actual fragging there. And, you know, that's not really to discredit CNZ in any way. It's just that Kilson had such a solid game plan on the map that you look at it on paper and you can see it working. You know, even down here where Mega is, if there's even a small amount of like flame strike there, it completely shuts it down. Kilson had a couple of big aggressive pushes, even down to that final rocket jump, you know, near light, and then you get flame strike rocket, good to go. But for me, it just practice is one thing, but continuing to push the bar of what we can and cannot do to work in the meta. If we're seeing this now, I'm kind of keeping a close eye on the finals, where is anyone keeping some stuff even closer to their chest? Because if there are going to be maps with certain champions and picks all around that no one's ready for, and now you're on LAN, you're at the finals, and that gives you a map win, maybe even a series win, I wonder if there are other secrets currently being hidden away. You know, I feel like someone somewhere is thinking of something.
Let's hope.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me as we've seen new tricks and come up over the whole season. So it's hard to say. I guess we won't know for another couple of weeks.
And it's, well, like the flame strike through that gap. I didn't know about that at all, really. Of course, the flames do drop down anyway, but the fact that it was just funny because CNZ knew it was happening, and he was just like, I need to try and out damage him compared to him being on fire for like the last 10 seconds. But little things like that will make a big difference. Of course, that's just like a jack of all trades thing. That's just something which I'm sure a lot of people know or pick up on anyway. But the thing is, though, yeah, there's those little things here and there, these exploits where people are going to try and abuse in order to. And also, you've got to remember, it's the fact that they won't be best of 3s or first of 3 maps. These will be best of 5s or best of 7s. So pick and bans are going to be even more important to the finals.
Great point.
It's where everything will start to add up the most. And by no means, I think, is this going to be the last time during the weeklies that we bring up this talking point, because this is where that critical point is reached. We do not have a lot of these weeklies left to go. We've played so much Quake all year round, and it's wild to me to think that we're pretty close indeed to finishing up the entire thing for the year. So the practice will continue. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Rest assured, we have got one more Challenger qualifier, I believe. So make sure that you're keeping your eyes peeled on that. Additionally, players are absolutely ramping up their practice and their scrims, whether it's like Xenoku, Wenger, Razy, I mean, Rafa, obviously, Kilson, who you just saw. Basically, everyone and anyone who's playing in this tends to be doing a lot of their own personal streams. So just get stuck in, watch their games, and learn a thing or two, I imagine. If not, just cheer on your favorite player. Unfortunately, everyone, that is all we have time for today. But as we said just now, there are going to be a few more weeks to go before we finish up and prepare for the all-important finals in Romania. My name is Ketchup, joined by the wonderful Lethal and the wonderful DJ Wheat. Thank you very much to Id and Bethesda. the hard-working production team behind the scenes making all this work. All the usual thanks I'd love to give and will continue to give. And one final thank you to you at home for tuning in, whether it was just the beginning, you caught us halfway through, or near the end, whatever. We appreciate you for sticking around. That is all we have time for this week's Quake Pro League. Peace out, take care, and much love. Goodbye.